Chapter 3800. A small ball of sky-blue crystalline substance suddenly flew to Arbor's fingers. Arbor was slightly stunned. She looked at the faint blue, soft ball on her fingertips and couldn't react for a long time. This was the frost dew that had the natural effect of refreshing one's mind. Arbor had an uncertain expression. The main thing was that this was too surprising. What was the frost dew? Even she had only seen a few records of it in the medicine codex. It was a sacred medicine that had always existed in legends and could improve one's divine sense. For me, Lord Jojo reached out and placed his hand on the phoenix wood's trunk. His eyes lit up slightly. Then wait a little longer. When I recover, I'll go down and help you get rid of that thing. Lord Jojo had already discovered the abnormality when her divine sense reached the bottom just now. The bottom of the phoenix wood had actually been hollowed out by an extremely bold little beast. That fellow had even built a nest there. Over the years, it had continuously absorbed vitality from the phoenix wood's body. Its appearance was also very strange. It had a bird's head and a snake's tail. Its entire body was covered in tiny black lumps, and it looked rather ugly. When Arbor's divine sense stared at it, it seemed to sense something and even raised its head to glance in her direction. Its perceptivity was not bad, but that was all it could do. Arbor was most annoyed by things that didn't work hard and wanted to take shortcuts. They didn't hesitate to hurt others. Just like that disgusting talisman master Tan Fa of the Clear Sky sect. He couldn't do anything but put a blood-cursed talisman on people. He used people as furnaces to cultivate and stripped their bloodline power, essence, and spirit for his own use. It was simply nauseating to reap without sowing. How could there be such a good thing in the world that one could obtain power without doing anything? If everyone was like this, wouldn't the laws of the heavenly Tao be messed up? Why did the world fear and hate talisman masters so much? Was it because of talisman masters themselves? No, it was because some evil talisman masters couldn't control their selfishness at all, so the world classified talisman masters as evil. Arbor had no intention of subduing this strange vermin bird at all. She just wanted to kill it. Moreover, it was so ugly that even Jojo couldn't be bothered to look at it. The frost dew slowly floated into the air and seeped into her body through the space between her eyebrows. She could feel the faint chi of the clear spring flowing under her skin and quickly seeping into her conscious. His already dried-up conscious was suddenly infused with a tyrannical force. At the same time that his consciousness was refreshed, his consciousness began to revolve rapidly, rushing towards the direction of the 6th level of consciousness. The effect of the frost dew on recovering consciousness was really too good. Not only did it fill up her originally dried-up conscious pool in less than a quarter of an hour, it also made her already loosened divine sense even more powerful. Therefore, it could be said that using one's divine sense more often could also improve the effect of training, especially when Xiao Mu replenished a ball of clear frost dew after exhausting her divine conscious to the point of exhaustion just now. That feeling truly was exceptionally satisfying. Lord Jojo opened his eyes and reached out a small hand to touch the phoenix wood. Then, he muttered to himself, "Wait, I'll prepare to go down now." Seeing a branch of the phoenix would entangle the corner of her clothes, the little fellow hurriedly comforted him. "Don't worry, that ugly monster below can't do anything to me." Chapter 3804. Of course, but once it foolishly climbed up, it would definitely be that ugly fellow below. Did it think judging from its battle prowess, it stayed near the roots, was only a divine to pause from time to time, reach the divine, preparing to see what this fellow down Jojo any moment. Seriously, it was too this little human stretched out, probably already sound. The smell of the called out to the little medicine really made it. Wait until it released some little dirt and let her sleep. The most ridiculous thing was that it originally wanted to quickly fall asleep. Big head to break. Chapter 3805. Unexpected, treacherous, pill-headed kept drilling to the top of the cave. Little water child only stuck out half, even when it was asleep. It immediately He saw a circle. It was really placed near the entrance. The two little ones hung. Its eyes, it had to endure. The little lump fellow knew that the deceitful Charles had arranged to wrap himself around Sir Joe's medicinal soup. Isn't this delicious? Poked its head out of the door to my door. It would naturally drinking so much poison. It's like the meat filling in a burrito. It would probably go crazy. The water child replied honestly. Arbor woke up. Sir Jojo would no longer be retracted his head and started a new round of pharmaceutical. When its realm stabilized. On this Jojo's, Arbor specialized in refining poison. It definitely didn't look. In any case, it could even. She had already collected enough poisonous. Arbor was stuck in the role at that time. It might even break your master. Arbor had been fiddling with her 9 stars, being wrapped in that layer. This fellow was after refining. Really wanted to dig. Its bird head suddenly realized that the 6th star on the mass stretched out its mirroring dirt basin full of. The little girl couldn't help. All the soil in the world, her 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron, simply just like how any water. This was simply the most very clearly feel that within the digging a hole, something. The bird's beak seemed to have been a faint fluctuation of the art. It just had it almost became casually dig a little. The bird had its sand around it would almost move. It was too fucking. Could it be the reason why its mouth was almost crippled the moment this girl was that the lump of dirt was worried? This seemingly unconcealed little fellow, not that it was actually had surrounding thinking about the good things. If one looked at it from a night sky, the movement would pay attention to a thin layer. She continued to multitask. The bird had continued to work on natural everywhere it could not see it clearly. If the previous bird had a snake beast was able to make a long bird out of its shade with a few hundred meters under, then the current medicinal it was only because it was not bird hair that it was shaken layers upon the fragrance of the poison almost look at how it used its iron but these roots were all dark green with so many special broken in the blink of an eye mixed together. The bird had a snake beast sense was not landed on the ground with a seeing new life was Arbor stood in the middle of it smelled so many delicious painful. The bird had none of them for looked back. That human girl should be so small. The bird had beautiful eyes, fucking bird eyes. This fellow is asleep. The little dirt he made out that were originally small hot fellow's hands laid too small feet. It would swim. The little girl mysterious smile appeared on its. The little girl had a square. So many poisons. It was tricked. Let's go together. The bird-headed snake beast was about strength would definitely increase. The dirt suddenly muttered at that time. Even if that guy, a little water, you wouldn't have to defensive talisman. On this day. Not only did Xiao could only fight here, over 100 years Phoenix appeared and the bird had also produced several dozen did this human breath Arbor nodded he was afraid of her. She placed the sparks in a small lump of dirt ladles when it saw the basins in a row at the cave entrance. It had already opened up a slender tunnel from top. If you don't take the bait today, I'll make you pronounce my name. Bang, bang. Arbor reached out. The bird had a snake beast red and looked around. She leaned against the Phoenix woods. What was going on? Turned over. It was completely blocked. A little dirt lump raised. The little water baby. Now, definitely be trapped in a huge, little stoic thought to herself. No matter how hard it tried, little water could not break out. And I'll let the combination of the triple master binding. The little girl had already thought like the kind was fully. The 3 of them shook their heads. The latter half of the night was very quiet, suppressing it. The bird trapping snake beast. Arbor's been stimulated by a special slowly came out poison pills. The water child. He looked at the ugly beast. The little dirt finally couldn't say at the same time. He controlled just spiraling furiously and crawled up. Even if at the same time, its small eyes, vigilance was suddenly so beautiful to the glyph formation. Arbor closed his eyes. Why do these feathers look so familiar to flesh? The little lump of dirt mumbled to itself. In the past, the feathers of the blue he could deprive the beast inner world. The water child he could deprive the beast's flesh every time they shed feathers. Arbor did not know what kind of silver would follow behind, and it seemed to be innate. Usually, the little dirt there's no need for immediately show critical expression. It could have a miraculous effect. Master Silver is a model of like a parasite that had been residing in the 10,000. These feathers can be exchanged for medicinal herbs at the pharmacy or sold for money. Chapter 30 seemed like a compliment. Arbor had already gone a little further. A 10,000-year-old phoenix stood in front of the bird-headed snake-tailed beast. And just looking at it up close, it continued to realize that the little black lumps on its painstakingly cultivated for 10,000 and there seemed to be a faint green everything it had now was sucked from the little dirt lump's face was also when Arbor deprived it, but it was just he didn't have any no matter if it turned into a square, it was just so natural shape. The beast trapped in the confinement, its lumpy face was much cuter than most people's, and suddenly headed beast in front of it was too. It felt that it was too ugly. For hundreds secretly complained. It had lived and pulled out a clump of soil without making any progress. And threw it at the bird-headed beast. It had always been very comfortable. It didn't expect the bird-headed little girl would come today. Immediately woke up
actually want to torture
and a
it to
pair
death.
of fierce little
bird-headed
eyes
snake
glared
beast
at Arbor.
spoke
Human
It
language
immediately
and
straightened
kept
its
nagging
snake tail,
him, begging for
and its
mercy,
little eyes
saying that it would
flashed as it
never
stared at
dare
Arbor.
to parasitize
Who are
the
you?
roots of the
Damn,
phoenix tree
this
again.
beast could actually
It
speak
begged
human
Arbor
language.
to do good,
But it made
and let
sense.
it go. This was a
They would
guy
find
that had
another
evolved
place to
into a
settle
divine
down.
beast.
In the end,
so logically
Sir Jojo
speaking,
listened to
it
it
should be able to
mumbling in the
transform.
array.
Arbor looked
for
at it with a
long
cold
time
little face
without any expression.
and suddenly moved.
He didn't even
its
say a word
feather-covered
to
arm.
it.
It was
You're
too
from the Blue Wand
infuriating.
tribe?
The
Why were
bird-headed
humans
beast
so hateful
shook its head.
nowadays? Why do you have
The bird-headed
blue wand
snake
feathers
beast
and
moved its
blazing
curved
phoenix feathers on
snake
your
body in a frenzy.
What was going on?
And its
Was this
eyes
person
spewed out
mutated?
traces of green
That's right.
light.
I'm the
wrapped in
descendant
scarlet.
of the blue
Good,
wand
good.
and fire
Since this
phoenix.
fellow was
Arbor
determined
lied with a
not
straight
to let it
face.
live,
Then
bullying
it would fight
this
it out
beast
with her.
that had just
The
entered
bird-headed
the god
snake
level
beast thought
and hadn't
for a
seen the
moment.
world. Although it
Xiao
was very
Mu
reluctant,
continued.
its life
I've
had
taken a
reached
fancy
a
to your
critical
lair.
point now.
Scram.
And it was at the
Chirp,
juncture
chirp.
of life,
Little
and
water
death.
and little earth.
If it didn't fight with
The
all its
bird-headed
might,
snake beast
how could there
was
be a way to
furious.
live?
It had
The
been
poison in its
squatting in
store
this
for a
nest
lifetime
for hundreds of years.
was all going to be wasted.
Don't think that
here
you're
today.
so great.
When Arbor
Just
saw that
because
this
you're the
fellow suddenly
descendant
stopped
of the blue
talking,
wand
he
and
became a
fire
little
phoenix.
suspicious.
How dare you rob
He raised
my
his
lair?
hand and
You must be
placed
tired
more than
of
10
living.
defensive
Come
talismans
up if you have
on
the
his body,
guts.
wrapping
win,
himself
I'll
layer by
scram.
layer.
If you
The
lose,
innermost
you scram.
layer also
Arbor
covered
hooked his
himself
finger at the
with an
beast
eggshell
and
defensive
took the
barrier.
lead to leap out of the narrow
Perfect.
tunnel.
At the same
the bird-headed
time,
snake
the
was
bird-headed
indeed
snake beast
very
had already
straightforward.
burst
How could
open
it
the
stand
tiny black
Arbor's
lumps
provocation?
all over
It
its
swam
body.
up quickly.
A large
but
amount
suddenly
of
stopped
scarlet
halfway.
green liquid
At this time,
gushed out
Arbor
of its
had
black
already
lumps.
jumped up to the ground.
And when it spread
After
over the
waiting for a
soil,
long time
the
for
poison
that guy to come up,
immediately
he
seeped
couldn't help
into the
but
soil,
feel a little angry.
completely
She
dying
poked her
a
head
few
out of the
branches
cave
the phoenix
and
tree
roared
into an
bird-headed
abnormal,
beast.
strange green.
Are you dead?
Arbor's gaze
I won't
became
fall for
a
it.
little more severe.
You're lying to me.
He called
You've been
for a
shedding
small amount of
feathers
soil
all
and
the
water
way.
to go up
You're
together,
not the descendant
and they
of the
all
blue
poured over
wand
the main
and
root
fire
of the phoenix
phoenix at
tree.
all.
You're
The bird-headed
snake
snake
beast released all
You must
the
have gathered a
toxins in
group
its
of
body,
people
and its
and are waiting
entire
for me
body
up
went
there.
limp as it
Arbor,
lay on the ground.
What's going on?
When it took a
Why
closer
did this
look,
guy
it
suddenly
almost
become enlightened?
fainted from anger.
Arbor looked at the
He
feathers
saw that
on
the
his
shameless
body,
girl was
took them
covered
off,
in a
and put
defensive
them back in
talisman
place.
array
With
from
a
head to
whoosh,
toe. He jumped
like a
back
round
in the
ball.
cave. It rolled
From afar,
towards him.
he looked at
Due
that
to
guy
the
coldly.
instant the poison
You think I can't do anything
the bird-headed
to you if you
snake
don't come
beast
out?
had
Arbor's
already
eyes
broken
rolled,
through the
and a
outer
plan
layer
came
of
to
the
her mind.
confinement array glyphs. However,
Chapter
it had yet to
38,
catch its
03.
breath. If
And
this
its
thing
entire
stayed in the
body
roots
was somewhat
and didn't
listless.
leave,
Arbor
she
didn't
couldn't
care at
fight with
all
it here
as he stepped
so,
on venom
as not
and
to
jumped
destroy
forward.
the roots of
This
the
was
phoenix
because her
again.
entire body
At first was covered
she really
with
didn't know what to
talismans,
do with it.
and her feet
but Lord
were also
Jojo
surrounded
wasn't
by the
anxious.
power of talismans.
Since she had found a reason,
the poison could
she
not
would
even
slowly
think of getting
torment
close to
this
her.
thing.
Of
Anyway,
course, as
she
the
had agreed with
ancestor
Feng
of poison,
Zhangqing,
even
and
if
the
she was
others for 3
contaminated
days,
by this
and
disgusting
now,
poison,
not even
she
half
should
a
be
day
able to
had
quickly
passed.
detoxify.
The little guy simply
After
ran
she
up with a
stepped
little
forward,
dirt lump.
she
and
simply
didn't let the
stretched
dirt
out
lump
a
fill the
small
tunnel
hand
that
with the
had been drilled.
Vajra amulet
With her
attached to
eyesight,
it, and
she
pressed
looked down
it
a
flat
few
on the
hundred
snake
meters
beast's head,
and
he
happened to see
continued
the
the process of
ugly
stripping the
bird-headed
bones
beast
and blood
lying in its
that had
nest,
not been completed,
raising its
just
bird
now.
head at her.
After
in
a
show of
quarter of an
force.
hour,
Later,
Arbor successfully
I'll chop off
stripped
your head,
the divine
and kick it like a
beast's
ball.
bones and
Lord
blood
Jojo
from the
sneered
bird-headed
her
beast's
heart.
body.
Looking at
A
the
drop
small
of
bone
black
and blood
lumps all
condensed
over
into
its
the size
body,
of grain
and the
of
way the
rice,
green liquid
showing
was
a
flowing,
faint green
it should be a
light,
poisonous
gently
beast.
jumped and swayed
This thing was
between her
poisonous
fingers.
all over, parasitic
ape,
in the roots
Arbor
of the
called
phoenix
out.
would like a parasite.
It would be strange if the phoenix wood was fine.
Chapter
Not only did this thing
38,
rely on the
07,
phoenix wood,
with
but
a
it
wave
also
of his
drained
hand,
its life
he released
points
the big
over
guy that
years
was dancing
and discharged
excitedly
the toxins
in
in its
Paradise
body.
Planet.
Therefore,
Go in
the
advance.
surrounding phoenix would
Arbor
branch
threw
through
the
the
drop
drop
of
black
bone
and
blood
blood
at
at
her
her
fingertip,
which was a sign
to
that
the
it was
big ape
poisoned.
that was
Arbor's
pounding
big
its
eyes
chest
turned
and
took out the
howling.
9
She looked at it
stars mirroring the
speechlessly.
moon cauldron.
The big ape
and slowly
quickly
began to
absorbed the
refine
drop
the
of bone
medicinal
blood.
liquid.
Then
Her small
it
hand
howled
took
twice
out a
and was
large
thrown into
soup
fish
pot
orchid
from her inner
planet by
world.
Xiao Shui
And Arbor kept
to
pouring the
advance.
nutrient
At this
liquid
time,
into the pot.
the bird-headed
Chirps.
snake beast
who was
that
at the
had its
side,
bone and
watched
blood
with its
extracted
small
had completely
eyes
given
a
up.
little straight.
Arbor
It
glanced
smacked
at
its
that
lips,
thing. Although
jumped
she
to the side of the
despised
soup
it,
pot.
she felt that
lowered
the
its
venom
head
on the
and
ground
took a
was
bite.
still a little
The taste is
useful.
not bad, right?
She took out a large
Lord
bottle
Jojo
and
muttered
filled
to
it
herself.
with the venom on the ground.
Although her cooking
She
skills
then
were
moved
really
out the
not that
large
good,
and small
her
basins
pharmaceutical
that she had put into
skills
her
were
inner world
extraordinary,
and began to
whether it
water
was
the
the pills
pills wood with the
or
nutrient
the medicinal
solution.
liquid.
As she
The taste was
watered
quite good, Arbor
she
took
muttered
out a small
softly,
soup spoon.
"I'll go
and scooped
down
a
and
mouthful.
repair your foundation
She
later."
fanned the medicinal
We'll be
liquid
fine
with her
soon.
small hand.
You're a
and a
10,000-year-old
fragrant smell
phoenix would.
slowly
I believe that
drifted
if you want to
into
send a
cave
message to the
from
Phoenix
entrance.
clan, You can
She
still
knew
do it.
very well about
Arbor's
the medicine
small hand
she was
paused
refining.
and patted
They
it.
couldn't even
Why don't you
resist
tell
the
them?
temptation
The Phoenix
of
clan
rotten
thought
peach
that this was a
blossoms,
1,000-year-old
let alone
phoenix
a little
wood
beast
and
that
regarded
hadn't seen the
it as a
world.
divine object.
He was not afraid
If the
that Tao
phoenix
would
would
not
send a
take the bait.
message to
Arbor
Feng
pulled out a
Zhanqing
sneer
with
and
its thoughts,
deliberately placed
Feng
the soup
Zhanqing
pot
would
at the entrance
immediately
of the cave.
lead more
He
than
held a spoon
2,000
and
Phoenix
poured
clan
the soup
members
spoonful
and
by
dig
spoonful
3,000
onto the
feet
would
into the
branch,
ground,
as if
it
he
would
was
spend
watering
10 days and
flowers.
8 nights,
Little water,
or even
little
longer,
earth,
to find
and
that
little
parasitic
chirps squatted
beast
by the side of the
and cripple
pot.
it. Holding their
Russell,
own small
Russell the
spoons
phoenix
and
would
occasionally
shook its dry
drinking
branches
one or two mouthfuls,
as if to convey
Arbor
the joy
watered
in
the
its heart,
phoenix
and
while
hugged
continuously
Lord
taking
Jojo
out
intimately.
medicinal herbs
Arbor
and
revealed
putting them back
a
into the
rare,
9 stars
sincere
mirroring
smile.
the moon cauldron.
Usually,
To continue
her smile
refining.
was forced
All
to
kinds of
curl the
medicinal
corners of her
soups were
mouth
freshly
and
made.
chuckle twice.
Pots and pans
Her
of
expression
various
was
sizes were
completely
lined up in
different
Arbor.
from a chuckle this
He
phoenix
practiced
would
all
was
the way
quite
until
arrogant.
night.
It
And
looked
only
down
then
on
did he
Feng
stop for
Zhanqing,
dinner.
Little
and the
Water,
others.
and Little
Arbor
Earth
felt
cooked
that she
the
quite
vegetable
admired
soup
this phoenix
and roasted
Wood's
meat.
small
Lord
temper.
Xiao ate a
That's
small
right.
bowl
The
of
Phoenix
holy
clan
rice
members looked
and
like a
patted
bunch
her
of
small
clowns.
belly. She
None of
found a
them
more
were
comfortable
reliable.
place
Arbor
to
took
lie
out a small
down
stool
under the
from her
branch
inner
of the phoenix
world
tree
and sat
went to
under the
sleep.
phoenix wood.
The bird-headed,
She sincerely
snake-tailed
chatted with it.
beast below
Little Wood,
felt that
do
it
you
was
want to
going
change to a
crazy.
better living
How
environment?
torturous.
Xochitl,
Can you mend the hole
Little
in the
Water,
cave?
and Little
Various
Earth.
fragrances
Her
of
master
pills,
seemed to have turned on his
herbs,
bluff mode
and
again.
dishes wafted
Although
in
this
the
place
air.
isn't bad,
He was really going
look,
to drive.
there are
the
dangers
beast crazy.
everywhere.
This
There are
human
also
must have
many
done it on
humans
purpose.
and beasts
It was
coveting
so
you.
obvious.
Isn't it
that
too
he wanted to
restless?
lure it up. This
The
little
phoenix
human
tree
must have
rustled
an
and
accomplice
shook its
waiting for it up
branches
there.
to express
It would be
its
stupid to
agreement.
walk right
Arbor
into the
touched
trap.
its trunk.
It had been entrenched
I'll help
in the
you
depths
fix
of
the
the Phoenix
foundation
Wood's
later.
roots.
I'm leaving
so the
tomorrow.
human would definitely
From now
not
on,
dare to do
we will
anything
never meet
to
again.
it. The Phoenix tree had lived for 10,000 years. So how could it not understand the human language? At this moment, the two branches of the royal phoenix tree hugged Lord Jojo and swayed her small body. Arbor shook his head decisively and said expressionlessly, "No, I can't stay here any longer. The world is so big. I need to go everywhere to gain experience. Only then can I slowly improve my ability. Although this divine territory is not bad, it's still not the best," Arbor said with a serious face. "I've discussed with the Phoenix clan that the treatment time is 3 days. Once the 3 days are up, I'll leave. As the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. It's fate that you and I have met. When fate ends, it will be gone every time her master turned on her bluff mode. She would suddenly act out of character." Chapter 3808. However, when the stoic face was chatting with you, there wasn't much expression on her small face. The phoenix would listen attentively and didn't seem to move for a long time. It was as though it was carefully pondering how to solve the problem at hand. The little girl said that the world was very big and she had to walk around. That was right. She was still young, so she indeed had to walk around and broaden her horizons. There was nothing wrong with her words. Then if she walked around, it would walk around with her, right? The phoenix would suddenly emitted a strange luster, and a mass of green paste-like substance that exuded a rich vitality suddenly flew into Arbor's hand. Little Water, Little Earth, and Little Chirp's 3 lower jaws all fell off. That mass seemed to be the essence of holy wood. Could it be that this phoenix wood had already grown to an existence that surpassed the 9th level of spiritual wood origins and was almost no different from holy wood? That was right. It was the heart of a 10,000-year-old phoenix wood, so it naturally couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as 100,000-year-old phoenix wood. The little girl was still thinking about how to continue duping this fellow, who knew that a paste-like substance would suddenly fly over and be absorbed by her spiritual ruin realm in a split second. This 10,000-year-old phoenix wood's heart was almost no different from the holy water's essence that she absorbed previously. It was powerful, full of energy, and filled with the aura of an ancient 10,000-year-old phoenix wood. Arbor was petrified on the spot. She originally wanted to have a good chat with the royal phoenix tree. The 10,000-year-old phoenix wood's heart was like the essence of holy wood. The moment it entered Arbor's spiritual ruin realm, Xochitl was the first to sense this abnormality. Xochitl's pleasantly surprised voice instantly rang out. "Master, what did you do? Did you just save the world? How could such a powerful wisp of holy wood essence be injected into it? Furthermore, this wasn't its own holy wood essence. This was another kind of holy wood essence that was almost comparable to it. Chocho instantly let out a few wolf howls and howls. It was as though it had returned to its initial state of being a small, crooked tree that was letting out strange wolf howls. "You're not a wolf," Arbor said expressionlessly. "Master, are you ready?" "Prepare for what?" Arbor was confused. "Prepare to break through to the deity realm," Chocho cried out. "Master Silver, I might have to sleep for a long time again this time. Once you step into the deity realm, the entire star field will take a step towards the deity realm. At that time, we won't be able to use the star field for a few days. Master Silver, you must protect yourself well." After Chocho forced himself to say a few words, he hurriedly shut his mouth to prevent himself from going berserk and immersed himself in cultivation again. Arbor's heart skipped a beat. When he looked up, he opened his mouth slightly in surprise. The entire phoenix tree began to tremble. It was as if Phoenix Island was trembling as well. The earth trembled and the island in the center of the lake rippled, but it did not affect He-chun and the others who were meditating and cultivating in the Phoenix Spring. The saint power in the Phoenix Spring Sanctuary was very abundant, and everyone was very happy to take it. The sound in the sacred region was completely blocked out, so no one noticed the abnormality there. However, the Feng clansmen who were cultivating by the lakeside all sensed this unusual tremor. Feng Zhangqing and Feng Zhangfei hurriedly set up a rainbow bridge and rushed over to the island in the center of the lake with a group of clansmen. They saw a strange scene from afar, so strange that it was unforgettable. Chapter 3809. They saw the little girl standing under the phoenix tree. Her small white figure was fluttering in the wind. The phoenix tree in front of him, however, shook its huge body and pulled its knotted roots out of the soil bit by bit. Yes, its countless roots buried deep in the ground were slowly pulled out of the ground. The scene shocked almost everyone. What did this phoenix tree want to do? It wanted to run away. Phoenix Island began to slowly shatter from the inside. As the phoenix tree's huge body was desperately climbing up from the depths of the ground, this pitiful island was destroyed with all its might and gradually fell apart. Arbor looked at everything in front of her expressionlessly. After the phoenix tree's holy wood essence merged into her body was undergoing a transformation. The most important thing was that she must immediately find a quiet place to cultivate in seclusion and not continue to stand on this island that was on the verge of collapse and stare at Feng Zhangqing and the others. The two high priests of the Phoenix clan, who had rushed over after hearing the news, looked at the scene in front of them in shock. They hurriedly knelt on the ground and repeatedly cupped their hands in the direction of the phoenix tree. "Quick, everyone! Kneel down and worship our clan's saintess." Everyone was dumbfounded. Worship who? These two high priests were second only to the chief grand elder in their clan. When the chief grand elder was in seclusion, all the clan's affairs were handled by the clan leader and these two high priests. The two high priests basically had the authority of the deputy clan leader in the Phoenix clan. Moreover, they were already old and had deep qualifications. They were respected by everyone in the clan, and no one dared to disobey them. When the clan leader, Feng Zhangqing, saw them, he had to respectfully address them as high priests. At this moment, the two high priests knelt down at the same time. They thought they were kneeling down to the phoenix tree, but unexpectedly they were kneeling down to the little girl. "Quick, kneel down! Kneel down!" The two great consecrators turned around and glared at the phoenixes. How could the Phoenix clan members dare to refute them? Although everyone was dumbfounded, they all obediently knelt down. Feng Zhangqing was about to kneel down when he was stopped by the angry Feng Zhangfei. "Big brother, they're crazy. Should we go crazy with them?" "Kneel for what? Where did this saintess come from?" The Phoenix clan had never had a saintess. "How dare you?" The two high consecrators glared at Feng Zhangfei angrily before bowing repeatedly in Xiaomu's direction. "This darn brat is insensible. Please forgive him, saint lady. Quick, kneel down and pay your respects." Not to mention the phoenixes, even Sir Jojo was a little confused. Needless to say, she herself was quite disgusted with the titles of saintess and saintess. When she heard others call her saintess,
She reflexively thought of the pretentious saintess of the Sun-Moon Temple. After Du Chunjiang left, Nie Yaoguang seemed to have disappeared without a trace. He probably went back to his nest. Why were these people kneeling and worshipping her, and even calling her saintess? What a joke. Arbor was speechless as he looked at the people who were led by the two consecrators. They cupped their hands and bowed to him. His small body was a little stiff. The saintess has been born. A great consecrator wiped his old tears and turned to Feng Zhangqing with excitement. Our Feng clan has hope in the future. Clan leader, the saintess has been born. The phoenix tree can be saved. Feng Zhangqing was still dumbfounded. Chapter 38:10. He was really curious. He didn't know where the saintess came from. Why were the two consecrators so agitated? Quick, go and ask Great Elder to come out of seclusion. The other consecrator also turned around and instructed the two clansmen behind him. Tell Great Elder that the saintess has come into being. Everyone, two great consecrators, this Phoenix Island was about to completely collapse. Shouldn't it be more appropriate for them to leave as soon as possible? At this very moment, the 10,000-year-old Phoenix tree finally broke free from the shackles of the ground and completely pulled its roots out of the ground. After a round, it shrank a lot. After a few rounds, it shrunk to a height of 3 meters. In an instant, the crown of the tree was wrapped in crimson leaves. It grew leaves. The Phoenix tree actually grew leaves. Feng Zhangqing looked at everything in front of him in shock and involuntarily got up from the ground. 3 days, no. 3 days hadn't passed yet. Sure enough, the little girl had brought the Phoenix tree back to life. Not only did she bring it back to life, but the Phoenix tree also crawled out of the ground. Big brother, this Phoenix tree has become a spirit. Feng Zhangfei cried out in alarm. What does it want to do? It's been following the little stoic face. Could it be that it wants to run away with the stoic face? These words were simply the thoughts of many Phoenix clansmen. That was their clan's sacred object. How could it run away with the little girl? They absolutely couldn't let it run away. Shut up. All of you shut up. The two consecrators immediately jumped up and cupped their hands at Arbor. They turned around and berated Feng Zhangfei. Stinking brat. What are you saying? How dare you be so rude to the saintess? What stoic face? Even if the saintess had a stoic face, she was still the Phoenix clan's most honorable saintess. Humph. Our ancient Phoenix clan scrolls have records of this. When the Phoenix clan's ancestors found this divine realm in Phoenix Forest, the Phoenix tree had already existed in the divine realm. It can even be said that the reason why this area we cultivate and became a divine realm is entirely because of the sacred power released by the Phoenix tree when it breathes in and out. The Phoenix tree has become a sacred object that our clan has worshipped for generations, but it has its own autonomy. Our ancestors have clearly instructed us that if there comes a day when the Phoenix would forms its own consciousness and wants to leave, we are not allowed to stop it, the High Consecrator said with a serious expression. That's right. We've been using this divine territory. Over the past 1,000 years, the Phoenix clan has been living in seclusion and has gradually grown stronger. The Phoenix tree has always been a sacred object of our clan, an existence akin to our benefactor. The clansmen can only worship it and cannot be disrespectful to it. The group of Wind Race clansmen looked at each other before lowering their heads and lowering their necks. Since the high priest had said so, they naturally had no reason to force the Phoenix tree to stay for them and continue to be the Phoenix's protector. But just the thought of letting the Phoenix would run away like this made his heart ache. Sigh. The clansman let out a long sigh. It was fate, not luck. What was to come would come in the end. Saintess. The high priest bowed toward Arbor and said with a smile, This island is about to sink. Let's get out of here first. Arbor looked at the two high consecrators expressionlessly and suddenly jumped onto the branch of the Phoenix tree. At that moment, everyone only saw the little girl in a white blouse under the red leaves. Her delicate little face was paralyzed. At this moment, a claw-shaped scarlet flower with several tasseled phoenix tails suddenly drilled out from between the leaves.
Chapter 38:11. Everyone looked on in shock, unable to utter a word for a long time. The entire Phoenix Island collapsed in an instant. Arbor looked back, only to see that the Phoenix Springs sacred territory was wrapped in an invisible sacred power, unaffected by the collapse of the island. Hu Shichin and the others were soaking in the Phoenix Spring, completely unaware of the changes in the outside world. Following an arc of white light, they suddenly sank into the lake. Arbor frowned slightly and quickly released her divine sense to take a look. She found that everyone was still meditating in the Phoenix Spring. However, the Phoenix Spring was like a spherical isolation shield, completely shielding them from the outside world. Arbor heaved a sigh of relief, hugged the Phoenix Wood, and smashed into the water with a bang. Saintus! The two high priests were shocked. As soon as Arbor entered the water, she was like a fish in water. She quickly paddled away, hugging the Phoenix Wood, and her speed did not slow down at all. When she swam to the vicinity of the Phoenix Spring, the little fellow was anxious, so she did not care too much. She boldly opened her star domain and threw the Phoenix Spring, along with Hu Shichin and the others, into the forest planet. After doing this, she did not have time to look at them again. She could only close her star domain first. Turning her head, she saw that the two high priests had anxiously entered the water and rushed toward her. Arbor kicked her two short legs, and with a whoosh, she swam toward the surface of the water with the Phoenix Wood. With a splash, the little fellow poked her head out of the water, flicked her long black hair, and suddenly turned her head to look. She saw that many members of the Phoenix clan had fallen into the water, and the entire Phoenix Island had completely disappeared at this time. It had all turned into gravel and dust, falling into the depths of the lake. Arbor blinked her big eyes and lay on the Phoenix Wood, but her entire body had already left the water. Her body was clean, without a drop of water, and her small face was still expressionless. She only silently looked at the few members of the Phoenix clan opposite her. Whoosh! The Phoenix Wood rose into the air and rushed back to the shore in a few minutes. Taking advantage of the fact that there was no one on the shore, Arbor boldly opened her star domain again. She quickly touched the Phoenix Wood, gave a few instructions, and threw it into the forest planet first. After closing the star field, she shook her body slightly. She knew that she had to find a quiet place to cultivate in seclusion. Moreover, you really couldn't stay in the God domain and wreak havoc anymore. Although it was an excellent choice to advance in the divine territory, this place was rich in divine power after all. However, once she absorbed all of the divine power during her advancement, it was conceivable that this divine territory without the Phoenix would not be able to quickly recover its divine power. Perhaps due to the excessive consumption of divine power, even this divine territory would face the fate of falling apart. If she continued to wreak havoc, she wouldn't be able to live with her conscience. It was better to leave a good place for the Phoenixes. She had to leave this place as soon as possible. The two high reverends hurried over and only relaxed when they discovered that Xiao Mu was fine. Feng Zhangfei and Feng Zhangqing also rushed over as fast as they could. Feng Zhangfei immediately noticed that the Phoenix Wood was missing and immediately asked, "Where's the Phoenix Wood?" The Phoenix Wood had bloomed just now. It must have bloomed, right? Xiao Mu expressionlessly looked at him and indifferently spat out. He ran away. What? Feng Zhangfei's face was full of astonishment. Feng Zhangqing couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Zhangfei, that's enough. The high priest said that the Phoenix Wood has its freedom. Nothing can be forced. Chapter 38:12. If she ran away, then so be it, even though this matter was quite inconceivable. However, since the consecrator had already said so, they naturally could not force the Phoenix Tree to stay and continue to serve as their Phoenix clan sacred artifact. The Phoenix Tree was not a slave or possession of their clan's land. Arbor glanced indifferently at Feng Changqing and his brother, then turned around and waved her hand. Farewell. Holy Maiden, please wait. The two great consecrators hurriedly said, Our great elder is rushing over. Please meet with our great elder before you leave. Arbor turned to look at them. I'm in a hurry to advance in seclusion. If there's anything, we can talk about it later. The two consecrators hurriedly glanced at her and nodded repeatedly. Then hurry up and bring the holy maiden to the clan's seclusion cultivation place. Arbor waved her hand. I'll go out and find a place. I can't be bothered to harm you bunch of idiots after saying that. She did not explain further. She turned around and ran out of the Phoenix clan's residence along the way. Open your door. Arbor's indifferent voice floated into everyone's ears. The two consecrators were stunned. Then, they hurriedly waved their hands and had someone open the door of the Phoenix clan's residence. Are we letting her run away just like that? Feng Zhangfei asked with a puzzled expression. The two consecrators turned to glare at Feng Zhangfei at the same time. Feng Zhangfei rubbed his nose helplessly and pursed his lips. We can't be rude to the holy maiden. It's good that you know. The two consecrators snorted at him and turned to look. They saw a green-robed old man stepping through the void at an extremely fast speed and arriving in front of everyone. Greetings, Grand Elder. Where's the holy maiden? The green-robed Grand Elder asked anxiously. The sacred teachings left behind by their ancestors had come true. Could the day of their Phoenix clan's reappearance be far away? The Grand Elder looked around excitedly, but he did not see the girl suspected to be the Holy Maiden. The Holy Maiden's advancement is imminent. She's entered the Phoenix Forest. Nonsense! The Grand Elder's face immediately darkened. Why didn't she bring the Holy Maiden to our clan's cultivation place? The power there is abundant and rich. It will be more convenient for her to advance. I think the Holy Maiden doesn't want to trouble us, the two consecrators said weakly. Is there anyone protecting you? The two consecrators were stunned. They were so anxious that they were sweating profusely. There's no one by the Holy Maiden's side. Quick, go out and look for him. She shouldn't have run too far. She's probably hiding somewhere nearby. The Phoenixes hurriedly opened the door of their residence and went out in groups to look for Jojo. On the other side, after Arbor left the Phoenix clan's residence, he hurriedly found a place with dense woods nearby. The place in Arbor happened to be densely packed with trees. The trees formed a circle, and there were many low shrubs in front, which made it easy for people to hide. Arbor found a tall tree with a large shrub in front of it, dug a hole, and went in. Then he began to set up defenses. The advancement this time was of the utmost importance. Although time was of the essence, the necessary preparations could not be neglected. Arbor flicked her finger several times, setting up multiple layers of defense, confinement, binding, and overlapping talisman formations around her. Afterwards, she set up a dozen or so mirage talisman matrices in the vicinity. Xiao Mu's projection could be seen meditating and cultivating inside each of the talisman matrices. Every Sir Xiao was expressionless. After doing all this, Arbor scraped out a drop of blood from her fingertip, drawing talisman in the air, gathering talisman power. Chapter 38:13. With a heavy expression, Arbor drew runes and connected them, reinforcing the Vajra talisman, gravity talisman, and shielding talisman on the tree. In the blink of an eye, the tree Arbor was on seemed to have disappeared from the world, and no one could find a trace of its aura. She knew all too well what kind of commotion she would cause when she advanced. She didn't even need to think about it. It would definitely be earth-shattering. If everyone rushed over to Feng Yulin's side, wouldn't it disturb her important advancement? Thus, the shielding talisman formation was of the utmost importance. It completely sealed off her spirit energy fluctuations. Even if they wanted to find her, they would have to break through the dozen or so illusion talisman formations first. After doing all this, Arbor used the flying talisman to rise up from the inside of the tree hole. She stuck to the top of the tree hole and looked coldly at the ground. Under the tree hole, on the originally empty ground, Arbor's illusion appeared again. She sat there with a cold aura, just like the real person. Her eyes were sharp, and she looked down on everything. After adding a dozen or so defense talismans to the illusion, a saint-grade golden talisman, summoning talisman, floated out of Arbor's fingertip and slowly rippled behind the illusion's head. The primordial beast she summoned last time was too powerful, So after Arbor summoned it for the first time, it would return home on its own. But since it could return home, this Saint-grade golden talisman, summoning talisman, could summon it again. She just didn't know if it would summon the same species. After everything was settled, Arbor summoned the mechanism diagram from her consciousness and used the ready-made formations in the diagram to set up a triple heaven and earth killing formation within a radius of 5 kilometers. If you dare to break the formation, I'll kill you back to the Yellow Springs. The 9 Hells Purgatory will be waiting for you. No matter who it was, no one could stop her from advancing to the deity realm. 5 Spirit Reincarnation. No matter who it was, if they dared to hurt her, they would die after everything was done. Arbor expressionlessly put countless defense talisman formations on her body, then slowly closed her eyes. Just like the Mystic Realm and Spirit Ascension Realm, Arbor couldn't hide in the star field to cultivate with such a huge leap in cultivation. Firstly, it would affect her ability to absorb world spirit energy from the outside world. Secondly, it might affect the transformation of her star domain from spirit realm to God realm. The advancement of her God domain was too important. She wouldn't gamble on it unless it was absolutely necessary. The moment Arbor closed his eyes, he could clearly feel the entire star field beginning to close. Fortunately, she had already received the little tree's hint and moved some necessities into her inner world. Her little companions were all left in the star field, including the little blue snake on her wrist. She had also thrown it back. The moment Spirit Realm turned into a star domain, although the star domain was very turbulent, the benefits were also enormous. Although she was alone now, when she thought that everyone was by her side, her heart was filled with endless courage. Xiao Mu was sitting cross-legged in the air a dozen or so meters above the tree hole. As he closed his eyes, he began to absorb the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Once this absorption began, all the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within 1,000 kilometers of Phoenix was sucked over. It was like a whirlpool that was spinning at a high speed and suddenly exploded in the sky. This was just the beginning. All the teams training in Phoenix couldn't help but stop and look at the strange direction in the sky. Chapter 38:14. Strangely, the sky suddenly turned dark and silent. Qi Xianxian, Duan Muqing, and the others who were gathered together immediately stopped and looked up. I don't know where Jojo went. He should be fine, right? Qi Xianxian asked worriedly. He shouldn't be. Duan Muqing shook his head. You forgot that the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal, His Excellency Little Tai Sui, and the others can come and help at any time. And Little Fatty nodded as well. Xiao Xiao will be fine. But this strange phenomenon in the sky seems a little strange. Could it have something to do with Jojo? Don't be so suspicious. Everyone talked as they walked. When they saw that the sky had completely darkened, they couldn't help but stop. It was still afternoon, but the sky was already as dark as the middle of the night. It was too strange. The situation in front is unclear. Let's find a safe place to stay first and continue when the sky is normal. Okay, when Jojo wasn't around, everyone was used to listening to Duan Muqing's orders. When they heard him say that, they naturally nodded in agreement. At the same time, many of the other training squads and mercenaries in the Phoenix Woods also stopped. Some cautious team leaders made the same decision as Duan Muqing. They stopped their team's movements and temporarily made everyone stay where they were. Everyone didn't know what was going on. They also didn't know that the sky was changing and that someone was advancing to the godly state. Most people only felt that the sky was so strange that something big was about to happen. Just as everyone was attracted by the sky phenomenon, Arbor, who was hiding in the tree hole and cultivating, could clearly feel that all the spirit chi of heaven and earth was flocking towards her. Right now, the tree she was on was completely enveloped by dense spiritual energy. Eben couldn't see the tree's true appearance. A whirlpool formed by heaven and earth opened above the tree's head. Endless spirit chi swirled in the center. All the spirit chi within 1,000 miles was flocking towards her without any resistance. Even a blind person could see that there was a problem with this level of spirit chi.
Outside Phoenix Woods, Gu Yishuan, who was supposed to return to the academy a few days ago, didn't actually go back. As for Huang Qishan, Su Fugui, and Zhong He, the three of them were also by his side. 3 days ago, they joined a small mercenary group called Fierce. The leader was a rank 14 Great Spirit Master in his 40s. He had a strong physique that ordinary Great Spirit Masters didn't have. He looked very powerful. Let's go and take a look. The captain of the Kuang Meng mercenary team, Wang Kuang, was not a person who was afraid of trouble. He was a guy who would appear wherever there was danger. Seeing such a phenomenon, not only did they not set up camp like the other teams, but they were also in high spirits. Although Gu Yishuan didn't say anything, he had some doubts in his heart. For the sky to be so abnormal, it was either that someone was advancing in rank or that a treasure had appeared. Captain, a seductive woman, whose face was painted red and green like a monkey's but grinned. Our spy is back. A little bean is back. Tell me about the situation ahead. Someone is advancing. It's in the forest ahead. Little Bean's eyes flashed with excitement. He's advancing to the godly state. He's probably about to enter the 5-spirit reincarnation. Then what are we waiting for? Huh. Chapter 38:15. There are actually people advancing in a place like the Phoenix Forest. Aren't they just waiting to be killed? The female mercenary in the ferocious mercenary team smiled sweetly, her eyes flashing slightly. Wang Kuang laughed out loud and stretched out his large palm, holding the woman's shoulder and nodding approvingly. Yao Hong is right. Everyone get ready. We will set off now. Xiao Dou will lead the way. All right. The dark and skinny mercenary named Xiao Dou immediately stood up and led the team into the Phoenix Forest. The ferocious mercenary team, including Gu Yishuan and the other 3, had a total of 25 people. Huang Qishan approached Gu Yishuan and whispered to him, "Are we really not going back to the academy? Do we still have to go in with them to stir up trouble?" Gu Yishuan clenched his fists unwillingly. We joined Wang Kuang's mercenary team so that we can enter the Phoenix Forest as cultivators. If we leave now, all our previous efforts will be wasted. Another royal school student, Zhong He, could not help but say. Su Fugui glanced at the worried Huang Qishan and grinned. "Brother Huang, you're not scared, right?" "What a joke, why would I be scared?" Huang Qishan glared at him and glared at Su Fugui. I already said that Brother Huang would not be scared off by a few words from a teacher. Su Fugui shrugged. Besides, we are not going to cause trouble. It's just that there is a strange phenomenon in the Phoenix Forest. As cultivators, we have the obligation to go and investigate. Su Fugui's words were dignified and were quite persuasive. If Huang Qishan did not know this person's character well, he would have been fooled by him. "Hey, are you guys going or not?" At this moment, one of the members of the mercenary team turned around and frowned at the 4 royal school students behind them. He could not help but shout at them. "Go, go, we're coming." Gu Yishuan and the other 3 responded and quickly rushed over. "Boys, don't worry. Since you are here to train in the Phoenix Forest, we can't let you return empty-handed." Wang Kuang hugged the woman who was twisting and turning around and smiled at Gu Yishuan and the other 3. "If you follow Brother Wang, you'll be able to pick up some benefits." Gu Yishuan nodded, thanked Wang Kuang, and quickly followed after them with Huang Qishan and the other 2. Wang Kuang was right. Since they had entered a mountain of treasures, how could they let them return empty-handed? He had to dig up something from the Phoenix Wood Forest to bring back. Otherwise, it would be a wasted trip. Wang Kuang hugged the woman beside him as he chuckled and said, "I wonder who it is that has the guts to advance in a place like this." "Brother Wang, although I don't know who it is, it's definitely someone with a bad brain." Xiao Dou laughed. "There are so many mercenary teams here, as well as teams of experiencers. There might even be some murderers who escaped from the city." "Ha ha, she's advancing here. Isn't she just waiting to be besieged?" "That's right. It's fine if you say that she's going to find a secluded place in the city to advance. There are guards in the city to maintain law and order. Even if there are experts who have designs on her, they would still have to consider the people above." One of the mercenaries pointed to the sky. "Ha, that's right." Xiao Dou laughed again. "Now, This person is a fat piece of meat in the eyes of all the experiencers. Chapter 38:16. Wang Kuang narrowed his eyes and nodded. You're right. Brothers, what are we waiting for? Let's hurry up. Why didn't you stay at home and advance steadily? Why did you have to come to such a holy place to gain experience? This was the way of the world. There were many people who wanted to take advantage of the situation to kill others and steal their treasures. There were a few other bold mercenary teams that moved at the same time as Wang Kuang. They had the same idea as Wang Kuang and the others, which was to rush over and get some benefits. It took courage to advance in such an unstable environment because everyone knew that advancement wasn't something that could be done in a day or a few hours, especially for Arbor, who had to go through the 5-spirit reincarnation to break through to the immortal state. No matter which part of the process went wrong, all the previous efforts would be wasted. Many of them had been stuck in a certain realm for 3 to 5 years, or even more than 10 years. When they saw others advance, their eyes turned red with jealousy. Under such circumstances, wouldn't it be great to follow the group and cause trouble? Anyway, they weren't the unlucky ones. Everyone was just following the crowd and causing trouble. There was nothing to be afraid of. At that time, when that person failed to advance, there would definitely be someone who would kill him first. Many people had the idea of following along to watch the show and then return with something for free. Killing others and stealing their treasures? Just thinking about it made them excited. Shi Lang and his mercenary group of more than 30 people had the same idea. While rushing, they kept an eye on the changes in the weather and headed toward Arbor's hiding place. As soon as they arrived, Shi Lang found that there were more than 100 people who had arrived earlier than them. These mercenary teams didn't move forward. They were all huddled together and talking noisily. Shi Lang rolled his eyes and went up to greet them with a smile. Hey, isn't this the leader of the Dai? Or a mercenary group? Ah, this is Queen Fu Sha from the Dafeng tribe, right? Queen Fu Sha, who was wearing a red veil and had a hot body, glanced at Shi Lang and snorted. What's wrong with everyone? Why are you all standing around here and not continuing? Shi Lang smiled wretchedly at the crowd, his face revealing a trace of confusion. Captain Shi Lang, there's something you don't know. There's a large-scale formation here, and we're still thinking of a way to break it. A mercenary group leader smiled and said to Shi Lang, Ah, that's right, you're a 5th-rank mercenary group. There are no less than 7 or 8 12th-rank Great Spirit Masters in your mercenary group. How about this? Let your subordinates try to open this array formation. Shi Lang chuckled and glanced at the mercenary group leader. Wishful thinking. He wanted his subordinates to take the lead. If something happened, wouldn't his men die at the very front? Did he think he was stupid? Shi Lang swept his gaze around with a fake smile. Everyone present has a higher cultivation base than my legionnaires. Why don't you all go first? Everyone secretly cursed the old fox. They hesitated and paced back and forth outside the needle technique. For the time being, no one dared to step forward. Out of the way, out of the way, out of the way. A delicate rebuke came from behind the crowd. Everyone turned around and saw a tall, thin, and average-looking woman walk over. Behind her were 2 young men and 2 young ladies. One of the young ladies looked like a well-bred young lady who had been raised in a boudoir. Chapter 38:17. The girl's face was beautiful and gentle. Her eyes were like a feather as they fluttered across everyone's heart, especially the tear mole at the corner of her eye. It perfectly complemented her soft face. She was truly a naturally charming little beauty. Lin Jin'er was enraged by the way the mercenaries were openly sizing her up, and she roared at the Shi Lang mercenary band. Are you guys blind? How dare you look at our junior sister like that? Do you know who she is? She is the daughter of the City of Shadows' first city lord, Mu Jinghong. 4th Miss, Mu Xiaoxue. The mercenaries immediately retracted their malicious gazes. The City of Shadows was a behemoth that no one dared to provoke. It was a hidden sect that transcended the 3 prefectures. There were countless experts among them. No one dared to provoke them. Moreover, it was said that their first city lord,
Mu Jinghong, was a very unreasonable person who was very protective of her people. For people from such a large sect, everyone had a life lamp. If their life lamp was extinguished, Mu Jinghong would naturally receive the message. Then, they could only wait to be unlucky. Those who dare to challenge the City of Shadows would eventually be killed by the countless experts sent by the City of Shadows. Thinking of this, the few daring mercenaries couldn't help but shudder and quickly retracted their gazes. "Umph," Lin Jinner smiled proudly. Mu Xiaoxue said gently, "Everyone, I'm really sorry. My senior sister's temper is quite fiery. She only wanted to protect me. She didn't mean to target you. May I know why everyone is blocking the way? We want to go into the depths of the forest to pick some herbs. Can't we pass through now?" Mu Xiaoxue was good-looking and very polite. Coupled with her soft voice, the mercenaries around her felt very comfortable listening to her. Hence, one of them couldn't wait to explain to her what was going on. Lin Jinner frowned and turned to Zhao Yi and Qi Fa. "Senior brothers, what should we do now?" The purpose of their trip was to pick the phoenix flower. Xiao Shui was worried that they wouldn't be able to differentiate the real phoenix flower, so she followed along. The journey was really quite bumpy. They didn't want to recall their experience at Oxhead Mountain again. Who would have thought that when they finally arrived at the Phoenixwood Forest, they would be blocked by some kind of broken array, unable to continue forward? Mu Xiaoxue was also very anxious. The map marked with the phoenix flower clearly indicated the direction. They had to go through this place. What should she do if she was stuck here forever? "Why don't you all listen to me?" Shi Lang rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Since there are so many of us here, there's no reason why we can't even break a small array formation. How about this? Each team will send out 3 of their strongest members and let them work together to break this formation. What do you all think? This is a very fair method." Wang Kuang hugged his woman and smiled. He waved his hand and pointed at the 3 strongest mercenaries in the team. As a result, each team sent out 3 members and walked forward. More than 20 people lined up in front of the array barrier. At the same time, they gathered their strength and threw out a punch. Boom, 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 boom. Huge tremors resounded throughout the entire Phoenixwood Forest. Chapter 38:18. After a flash of light, the 20 or so people disappeared in front of everyone at the same time, giving everyone a fright. "What's going on?" Shi Lang shouted in a stern voice, his suspicious gaze sweeping over everyone's faces. The others were also looking at him suspiciously. After all, he was the one who suggested that each team send out 3 people. Now that 20 or so people disappeared at the same time, shouldn't it be his fault? Shi Lang was naturally depressed. His people had also disappeared, okay? What's going on? What's going on? After a few screams, many people suddenly disappeared on the spot. A bunch of idiots. Dai Air's face darkened as she shouted, "Retreat." This was the activation of the formation. However, when everyone retreated, they felt as if their legs were fixed in place. A layer of floating light enveloped them, and in a matter of minutes, everyone present was dragged into the formation. "Captain, be careful." His assistant, Su Ha, raised his axe and chopped off the head of one of the wooden dummies. The head rolled on the ground. The others were also attacked by dozens of wooden dummies. They stepped on a large patch of yellow sand and held their weapons as they fought against the wooden dummies that surrounded them. Damn it, where did these things come from? Everyone, be careful. Xiao Rou, the maid with a red scar on her face, protected her Miss Xiao Shui as they retreated. The 3-foot-long sword in her hand flew back and forth. Wherever it went, the wooden dummies' heads would be reaped. However, there were too many wooden dummies in this place. It was as if there was an endless stream of them. After killing one batch, another batch would appear. At the same time, the eyeballs in Xiao Mu's closed eyes moved slightly, and she pursed her small, rosy lips in displeasure, enveloping them with dense spiritual energy. Her fingers suddenly moved and quickly formed a seal. 3 runes flew out like flowing light. A bunch of people who deserve to die. How dare you come and disturb Jojo's advancement? Leave all of you behind. For a moment, Everyone fighting the wooden dummies in the formation felt the pressure on their bodies increase. Waves of cold wind blew from all directions, rolling up wave after wave of earth tornadoes. "Ah!" a mercenary exclaimed as he was surrounded by a group of wooden dummies. His head was twisted off on the spot. The others' faces changed. All kinds of fire and water spirits attacked the wooden dummies. At first, they didn't want to waste so much spiritual power, but these wooden dummies had suddenly become so powerful that they had no choice but to treat them seriously. They were here to see if there were any benefits to be gained, not to be killed in this strange formation before they even got close to their target. Dell was already regretting her decision. She had always been a very cautious person. Coincidentally, he walked nearby and saw so many people gathered around. His curiosity was piqued. She really wasn't here to break the formation or take advantage of the situation. However, curiosity really killed the cat. Now, the entire team had been tricked by her curiosity. The wooden dummies came one after another as if there was no end to them. They did not know that Arbor had used the mechanism diagram to set up the triple heaven and earth killing array. Right now, they were only experiencing the first stage. "Everyone, let's work together and carve out a path," Shi Lang shouted angrily. At this moment, no one could hold back anymore. If they didn't fight with their lives on the line, they might really die here. Everyone waved the weapons in their hands, and all kinds of spiritual energy smashed down without any regard for their lives. Chapter 38:19. Kill! Shi Lang and the others roared angrily as they charged forward and furiously hacked at the wooden dummies in front of them. Guishuan furrowed his brow and kicked away the wooden dummy. He turned around and asked Huang Qishan breathlessly, "Old Huang, don't you think it's a bit strange?" "Of course it's strange. These damned wooden dummies seem to be endless." "That's true." Zhongyi nodded. "No, don't you think this method is familiar?" Huang Qishan stilled, but the overwhelming number of wooden dummies that came at them did not allow him to think too much. Everyone wanted to cry, but had no tears. They could only wield their weapons and continuously hack, their movements very mechanical. At the same time, 3 fugitives gathered together and did their best to kill the black shadows that flew in front of them as they roared angrily. "Old Hang, how is the formation breaking? We can't hold on much longer here. This is the triple-layer killing formation of heaven and earth." An old man with white hair and a white beard who looked benevolent said as he stroked his beard, "The wooden dummies that we just broke through the first layer of the formation. This is the second layer. If we want to break through, we'll probably have to expend even more effort than before. Old Hang, don't waste words. Hurry up." The person who spoke had large and small eyes and a ferocious face. It was the captain of their group of 4, Gue Qiu. He was born with a deformed left hand and was vicious and merciless. His left hand was half the length of his right hand, and his palm was 2/3 smaller than an adult's palm, like the hand of a 7 or 8-year-old child. These 4 people had committed a major crime in Li City, exterminating a medium-sized family, stealing the treasures of the family, and escaping. That family's entire family of 208 people had been killed by them. Right now, these 4 people were being pursued by the large and small families of Li City. They had no choice but to run out of the city and hide in the perimeter of Phoenix Wood. Phoenix Wood was extremely large. After they ran in, they hid in it for more than half a month. Right now, the large families of Li City had gathered the elites of their families and formed an adventurer team of over 1,000 people in order to enter Phoenix Wood to capture these 4 vicious people. These 4 people had stepped on the bottom line of all the Xiuzha in Li City. They didn't even let go of a baby who wasn't even a month old. They were truly insane. The reason they came to Arbor to break the array was also because of fate. Among the 4 of them, Old Hang was an outstanding formation master. He could see that there was a large formation here, so he knew that there must be something unusual going on. When the 4 fugitives learned that someone was breaking through to the God Realm here, they immediately had evil intentions. He wanted Old Hang to break the formation, kill the person who broke through, and snatch the Dharma treasure from her. After all, those who broke through to the divine realm and wanted to go through the five spirits' reincarnation tribulation would more or less bring a few treasures with them to defend against the heavenly fire and heavenly thunder. However, what they didn't expect was that they would only find out how powerful this damned triple-killing formation of heaven and earth was after entering the formation. It wasn't easy for them to rush over from the wooden dummies. Now that they were surrounded by the ghost spirits, they could only bite the bullet and continue to kill. Xiao felt extremely resentful. His intuition told him that if he could break through this formation, he would definitely torture the person in the formation to death to release the vicious aura that had been in his heart for a long time. At the same time, Ming Yasi's group once again silently encountered Omega Kitoku's group. It was a dark day. Fortunately, both sides had night pearls in their hands, so they could see who the other side was. Chapter 38:20. They could very well fight over the other party's rubies, but everyone was well aware of both parties' strengths. If they really fought, it was really unknown who would emerge victorious, so there was no need to make a big fuss. Yili pursed his lips and said, "For some reason, I have a premonition that such a big commotion is related to Stoic Face. Those familiar with Stoic Face should know that wherever this guy passed, there was not a single instance of peace and tranquility. The experiential training in north-facing Great Forest and the treasure hunt in the Sun Moon Mystery Realm were the best proof." Ming Yasi expressionlessly glanced at Omega Kitoku and the others. The two teams silently parted ways and walked in the same direction. Eldest Qin saw that the atmosphere was not good, so he couldn't help but giggle and sway his body. He floated to Ming Yasi's side and said, "Crown Prince of Ming Province, there's an earth-shattering surge of spiritual energy ahead. Do you think we'll be in danger if we go over now?" Ming Yasi glanced at him and replied with a chuckle. This guy was trying to find a topic to talk about, right? While everyone was silently walking, they suddenly saw the tree branches in front of them move slightly. They saw a team of 8 walking over from a slanted path and coincidentally met up with their 2 teams. Ugh! The 3 teams looked at each other and caught a faint hint of gunpowder in each other's eyes. At this time, Omega Kitoku and Ming Yasi simultaneously had the same thought. Why did we encounter this guy? Has this guy recovered his strength yet? Ha ha! What a coincidence, fellow students. Seeing the heavy atmosphere, Mata couldn't help but jest. Eldest Qin waved the small fan in his hand and glanced at them with a grin. He waved his hand at Mo Lien and Duan Yu. "Prince Mo, Prince Chun, how are you two?" Everyone was currently sizing up the two of them from head to toe. If they hadn't recovered their cultivation, after so many days, they should have become stray dogs. But now, Prince Mo, Duan Yu, and the others looked neat and tidy and refreshed, so they should be. Duan Yu curled his lips and smiled faintly at eldest young Sir Qin. "Sorry to disappoint you, but we're doing very well." Eldest young master chuckled. "Disappointed your sister." One of the Omega Kitoku's men stepped forward and whispered to the Omega Kitoku, "Second young master, we don't have much time left. We need to act as soon as possible." Omega Kitoku flipped over the identity card in his hand and looked at the time on the back. Less than 70 hours had passed, and they still seemed to have gained nothing. Time was indeed a little tight, and they could not continue to mingle here. Eldest young Sir Qin's gaze swept over Mo Lien and company. Jojo isn't with you?" Mo Lien swept a glance at him, looking as if she couldn't be bothered with him. When they were teaming up earlier, everyone clearly knew who was on the same team. Now he was deliberately saying this. He wanted to remind him that Jojo was not by his side. "While my heart hurts." This guy was purposely poking at his heart. How infuriating. Eldest young Sir Qin blinked as an imperceptible smile hung on his lips. He suddenly pointed ahead. "Wow, wow, wow. Look over there. What's going on?" Bam, bam, bam. Bam. Following a series of anguished wails, countless people were sent flying and rolled into a pile, their wails echoing everywhere. Duan Yu took advantage of the situation to shift to Mo Lien's side, only to see a man sprawled on all fours smashing over from where he was originally standing. Closely following that, a coquettish woman slammed into that man with a bam and cried out in pain. The array spat them out. Chapter 38:21. Rewind time to 15 minutes ago. Arbor had inserted several mystic talismans into the triple heaven and earth killing formation, filling it with ghostly aura. Everyone who entered the second layer of the killing array was killed by the ghost spirits. The mercenaries led by Shi Lang, Wang Quang, Dai and Queen Fu Sha had truly suffered heavy casualties. In the end, Dai made a prompt decision and hastily expressed her stance, requesting that they be released from the formation. After all, Dai and her group merely rushed over to take a look out of curiosity, but the result was tragic. Hence, the formation spat out Dai and her group on the spot. As for Wang Quang, they originally wanted to enter the formation to search for the person who had broken through, to kill and seize the treasure. The formation had already been broken to this extent, so how could they back out and let their previous efforts go to waste? Moreover, they secretly despised Dai's cowardice in their hearts. As expected, this woman was terrible at leading a team, retreating in the face of difficulties, Hence, Emolian, Duan Yu, and the others outside saw these fellows from the Dai, a mercenary group, being flung out by the formation and landing in front of them. Duan Yu expressionlessly gazed at those pitiful people who looked like they had weathered many hardships. He asked with a sneer, "Did you see who?" He dared to bet his head that the person who set up the formation was 99% likely their Jojo. These people wanted to break the formation and enter because they wanted to affect Jojo's advancement. That was it, right? For some reason, Dai could clearly sense traces of evil from these people. She had already recognized many of their identities. The Crown Prince of the Divine Province, Song Province's Prince Chun, as well as the Crown Prince of Ming Province, the young masters of the Qin Estate, and the Mu Estate. Why were all these heavyweights gathered here? Dai was a smart person, so she naturally wouldn't go against Emolian and her group, whose strength far exceeded normal people. She obediently stood up and straightened out her clothes before bowing to Emolian and the others. She said respectfully, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, everyone, our Dai, a mercenary group was merely passing by this place and was inadvertently sucked into the formation. I explained this matter to the senior in the formation, and the senior was kind enough to let us out. Our mercenary group had no intention of disturbing senior's cultivation. Emolian, Duan Yu, Ming Yasi, and the young masters of the Qin Estate couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. What happened? What senior? Shouldn't Jojo be the one in the array?" Emolian immediately understood what Del meant. Dai and the others probably didn't see who was inside the formation at all, right? Therefore, she secretly felt that the person who was able to set up such a powerful formation must be an extraordinary senior. Duan Yu also instantly understood Dai's meaning. He speechlessly glanced at this disheveled woman and waved his hand. "Withdraw." Del and the others heaved a sigh of relief. To tell the truth, they simply didn't care about Duan Yu and the others' haughty attitude toward them. After all, these people before them all had extraordinary statuses, and none of them were people that a small fourth-grade mercenary group like theirs could afford to offend. "Thank you for sparing my life, senior." Del swore that she would never be curious about anything that had nothing to do with her anymore. "Let's go." Emolian sent a look at Duan Yu, Mu Xingqian, and the others. She immediately abandoned the Omega Kitoku, Ming Yasi, and the others and hurried toward the large formation. Chapter 38:22. He wanted to see who dared to force their way into the formation and wanted to disrupt Jojo's advancement. That person was simply outrageously audacious. This place is surrounded by a formation barrier. Mata reached out to touch the transparent barrier in front of them. As long as you don't actively attack this kind of large formation, it won't suck people in, Duan Yu said indifferently. If you accidentally touch it, you'll only be repelled and won't be injured. So that Del and her mercenaries must have attacked the formation before, which was why they were sucked in. Mo Lian's eyes darkened. How do we get in? Mu Xingqian asked anxiously. Will Jojo be all right inside? After all, according to what Dell said earlier, there were more than 20 people who attacked the formation at the same time. More than 100 people had been sucked into the formation. Even if nearly half of them had died in the formation, there were still at least 70 to 80 people remaining in the formation, trying to break open the formation and harm Xiqiao. How could Mu Xingqian not be anxious? Don't worry, I have a way to get in. Emolian took out a vine branch from a sapling from her sleeve. However, the vine nimbly drilled through the barrier without any hindrance. It even dragged Emolian into the formation. Before Emolian went in, she grabbed Duan Yu's arm. Mu Xingqian and the others also hastily grabbed Duan Yu and followed the suction force into the barrier one by one. After the group passed through the formation barrier, their vision darkened. When they opened their eyes again, they were already in a scene of yellow sand filling the sky. Wooden dummies swarmed over from all directions. Just as they were about to attack them, they seemed to have sensed something and moved their arms and legs in a daze. Then all of them stopped. Mata, who jumped in fright and assumed a defensive stance, immediately breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that the wooden dummies didn't come over to attack. She heaved a long sigh. Heavens, where did Jojo get so many wooden dummies that can run, jump, and hit people? This should be a ready-made, large formation in the mechanism diagram. Mo Yin said, Jojo used it to set up this killing array to prevent anyone from getting close to her body. It will hinder her from advancing. It looks like the little stoic is about to advance successfully, eldest young Serchin said with a grin. Duan Yu and the others all turned to glare at him. Why did this guy come in as well? Eldest young master raised his hands pitifully and said, I'm also here to help. Humph. Emolian glared at him before turning around to walk forward into the sand-filled sky. He had to find the eye of the array as soon as possible and get out of the array to find Jojo's correct position. Unsure if Rotten Peach Blossom was with Jojo, Emolian frowned. He still had to find his wife as soon as possible. He didn't feel at ease leaving his wife in anyone else's hands. It was best to keep her by his side. On the other side, Shi Lang and the others were almost driven mad. He looked on helplessly as a level 12 Great Spirit Master mercenary beside him was pierced through by 4 or 5 ghost spirits and turned into black ash. Shi Lang couldn't help but regret rashly entering the array to throw away his life. Gu Yishuan, Huang Qishan, and the others were also starting to regret it now, especially after seeing more than half of Wang Kuang's mercenaries dead or injured. It was too late for regrets. Now, everyone had almost exhausted all their spirit energy. After 2 rounds of devastation from the wooden dummies and ghost spirits, they were simply too exhausted. Hurry and put in more effort. We'll be able to break this array soon. Chapter 38-23. Bang! Wang Kuang felt that the barrier in front of him seemed to have been broken. When he saw a green forest appear in front of him, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. With her head covered in yellow sand and dust, the bewitching woman who was battered and exhausted no longer had the slightest bit of her seductive appearance. She looked like a miserable beggar, but her eyes bloomed with joy. Brother Wang, we've broken the formation. We've broken it. Thank the heavens, who knew how long they had been fighting with the wooden dummies and ghost spirits in that damned sand formation. At least they were still alive. Looking at her side, of the 25 people in the mercenary group, only Gu Yishuan, Huang Qishan, Zheng Sufugue, Wang Kuang, Xiao Dou, and herself were left. 25 people died to only 7 people. This kind of sacrifice rate was simply shocking. Yao Hong didn't know if she should kneel down and thank the heavens for their mercy. Yes, it was broken. Wang Kuang couldn't help but feel a bit more bitter in his heart. The phoenix forest appeared in front of them again, surrounded by trees and green scenery. It was no longer that damned place filled with yellow sand. The unkempt Shi Lang couldn't help but laugh loudly. With a knife in his hand, he glared fiercely, looking back and forth. Come out for me. This sneaky little person actually hid in the phoenix forest and didn't come out.
If I catch you, I'll pull out your tendons and skin you to vent my anger. The Shirlang mercenary group was actually only left with him and 2 level 12 great spiritual masters. The entire Shirlang mercenary group had suffered a disastrous loss this time. Too deceitful, really too deceitful. On the other side, Queen Fusha's situation was slightly better. The 5 people from Shadow City, Lin Zhen'er, Zhao Yi, and Qi Fa were more or less in a sorry state. As the daughter of the first city lord, although Mu Xiaoxue was just an ordinary person, she had the powerful maid Xiao Rou by her side to protect her. In addition, she had many protective treasures. At this time, she looked like the cleanest and most elegant person. Everyone relaxed at the same time and let out a long breath. Shirlang sat down on a piece of loose stone under the tree. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and said coldly, "I didn't expect that formation to be so difficult to break." The others also slumped down one after another. They had fought with their lives on the line with the ghost spirits for a long time, and now they were mentally exhausted. One had to know that the previous wooden dummies were still manageable, but the subsequent fight against ghosts was simply a painful torture. How could an ordinary person fight with a ghost spirit? After they had used up all the talismans they had on them, they could only use all kinds of spiritual energy to deal with the ghost spirits. This was because ordinary physical attacks like punches and kicks were completely useless against the ghost spirits. If one was caught off guard or unable to defend in time, they would be torn to pieces by the countless ghost spirits without any chance of survival. Leader, what do we do now?" One of the level 12 soul masters in the mercenary group asked while panting. "Of course it's to find that damned person who set up the formation." Shirlang gnashed his teeth and said. Suddenly, Yao Hong cried out, "Look!" At this moment, everyone was still tense. When they heard this ear-piercing cry, they all frowned at the same time and looked in the direction Yao Hong was pointing at. They saw that behind the level 12 soul master who had spoken, the ground was constantly moving. A white bony arm stretched out from the ground and suddenly grabbed the soul master's neck from behind. Shit! A white bony arm stretched out from the ground. Chapter 38:25. Right now, he was so scared that he pissed his pants. He ran for a distance in a panic. Suddenly, a slope appeared under his feet. Shirlang almost couldn't control himself and almost rolled down the slope. Suddenly, he heard a scream. Yao Hong was the first to roll down the slope. Everyone's expressions changed, and they stopped running. Wang Kuang, on the other hand, still had some affection for this woman. Seeing this, he hurriedly followed. Suddenly, the sound of spiritual energy colliding came from the slope. Shirlang and the others were so scared that they almost pissed their pants. They reflexively wanted to run back. However, when they turned their heads, they discovered that the slope was surrounded by a large group of white skeletons. If they dared to rush up, it would be like sending sheep to the tiger's den. Everyone could only run down the slope. When they looked up, they saw that the white skeletons only surrounded the slope and didn't come down. Shirlang and the others had just run down the slope when they were suddenly hit by a few streaks of spiritual energy. With a wail, they fell to the ground. "Who are you people?" Wang Kuang fell to the ground. His hands were bound behind him by divine power. Half of his face was rubbing against the ground. There was a large shoe print on his face. He was glaring hatefully at a deformed man who was hugging Yao Hong. The deformed man acted as if there was no one around and did not hold back at all as he touched Yao Hong. Slap! Wang Kuang's face was immediately slapped. He couldn't help but be secretly shocked. He was a level 14 Great Spirit Master. He was very clear about his strength. However, he was immediately bound by divine power. That ugly, deformed man, with different lengths on his left and right hands, was actually a deity expert. "We've already found the eye of the formation." A kind-looking old man smiled and nodded. "They came to right time. Let's use their blood to break the formation." "What?" Wang Kuang and the others showed a frightened expression. They saw the old man suddenly grab the last level 12 Great Spirit Master mercenary
in the Shi Lang mercenary group. Amidst his miserable screams, he kicked him into the eye of a whirlwind. Everyone could see with their naked eyes that the person's skin and flesh were scraped off by the eye of the wind. His entire body twisted and fell to the ground. With a bang, he smashed into the eye of the formation. Bang, bang, bang. With a loud bang, the entire formation barrier suddenly disappeared into nothingness. Wang Kuang and the others were overjoyed to find that they had really reappeared in the Phoenix Woods this time. They could even smell the unique fragrance of the Phoenix Woods. Old Hang frowned and exclaimed. His eyes fell on a person who was less than 5 meters in front of him. A little girl dressed in a white robe, with snow-white skin and exceptionally delicate features, was sitting under an old tree. Above her head was a whirlpool of spiritual energy. He's going to advance to the divine realm at such a young age. Old Hang smiled with a hint of envy in his tone. How enviable. It's a pity that you don't have a life to continue. Ghost Dragon used its deformed short hand to grab the woman's waist. Yao Hong only felt that the deformed hand was like a soft, poisonous snake. It moved back and forth between her waist and buttocks, causing her entire body to stiffen. A sliver of fear appeared on her face. I hate those arrogant young men and women who rely on their aristocratic family's inheritance the most. Among the 4 outlaws, a well-built man crossed his arms and sneered. This formation made us waste so much effort. We definitely can't let this little girl off easily. Chapter 38:26. Wang Kuang and the others didn't dare to respond at all as they listened to the 4 people talking among themselves. These 4 people's cultivation realms were much higher than theirs, so they simply couldn't muster the slightest thought of resisting. Right now, they only wanted to preserve their own lives. As for everything else, they would just take whatever step they took. Since this little lady dares to advance while hiding in this phoenix forest, she must have many good items on her. The outlaw's eyes revealed a barbaric glint. He held a large axe and swung it down at the little lady's head. Wang Kuang, Shi Lang, and the others couldn't help but be secretly alarmed by the power of this axe. They estimated that the power of this attack had already reached the level of a level 3 God Realm cultivator, far from what they could withstand. The Phoenix Forest trip was truly too unlucky for them. Bam! However, this strike of the axe only managed to open a tiny crack in the barrier above the little girl's head. It was a very small crack, but the moment the axe was lifted up, it slowly closed up. At this moment, the little lady, who was sitting cross-legged with her eyes closed to absorb spiritual energy, instantly opened her eyes. For a moment, everyone present subconsciously held their breaths. Those eyes were as deep as the night, without a trace of white in them. Her pupils were covered in an abnormally pure, pitch-black color, which was abnormally bewitching. The man swinging the axe and hammer was also startled. He tightened his grip on the axe and roared, "How dare you scare me?" Hence, he swung the axe again at the little lady's head. Before his axe could land on the little lady's head, it was abruptly struck by a piercing bone nail and sent flying, smashing into a nearby tree with a swish. Emolian, Duan Yu, Mu Xingqin, ACI, and the others walked out of the forest path and sized up these people. Jojo, Mata pointed ahead agitatedly. Wait! Duan Yu reached out to stop him and turned to look at the man who had thrown away his axe and hammer and was looking at them in astonishment. How dare you be so arrogant? Emolian sneered and pointed at him. Gui Xuan and the others were horrified to find that the deity realm expert, who was originally in front of them, had actually been blasted apart by the power of this finger. Fuck! What kind of power was this? Eldest Young, Sir Qin narrowed his eyes. It looked like this guy and Duan Yu had indeed recovered their strength. Now, he was suddenly glad that he didn't act rashly earlier. What was going on? Jojo stood up. Mata suddenly exclaimed. Everyone's attention was once again pulled back, and they all exclaimed in their hearts. Sure enough, the little girl with the cold eyes really climbed up from under the tree. She held the thunderclap sword in her hand and was approaching them step by step. Oh my God, Jojo's current state
Why does it make people's hair stand on end? Could it be that this fellow would enter a state of complete disregard when he was cultivating? This isn't Jojo. Yas and the others felt their hearts skip a beat. It's an illusion talisman matrix. When this fellow's pitch-black eyes looked at them, they inexplicably felt a little cute amidst the creepiness. What was going on? Rustle, rustle. A gust of wind rustled the grass. Everyone reflexively turned to look and saw a dozen or so Sir Jojo standing up with the same thunderclap, sword, and cold, killing intent on their faces. Chapter 38:27. Our dear Mole Yin gazed at the pile of wives in front of him and inexplicably thought of those little ones piled on top of him in the Tower of Punishments, desperately clamoring to move the gold. It's over. What do I do when I have no resistance at all? Prince Imo couldn't help but cover his handsome face with his hand. At the same time, more than a dozen expressionless little girls had already stood up from the underbrush. Their pitch-black pupils locked onto their group of external targets with thunderclap, swords in their hands, and they closed in on them inch by inch. Duan Yu hastily tugged at Mo Yin's sleeve. Hurry and think of a solution. How could he bear to be so ruthless against this pile of Jajas? They couldn't win in a fight, but they didn't want to flee either. After all, Sir Jojo had set up so many illusion talisman matrices here, which meant that her main body was probably nearby. Hurry and think of a solution. They're coming. Mu Xingqian yelled worriedly. The illusion talisman matrices that Jojo had set up on the periphery would probably attack indiscriminately once they were triggered. These weren't their Jajas. They were merely a dozen killing machines. In the blink of an eye, a Jojo phantom wielding a thunderclap sword had already pounced over and unhesitatingly slashed in Lin Jin'er's direction. Lin Jin'er was simply about to vomit blood from anger. She hadn't fucking plucked a single phoenix flower along the way, yet she kept encountering life-threatening situations. She recognized at first glance that this stoic face was the damn woman who attacked her group on Oxhead Mountain. This damn little bitch. Did she really think that everyone in the City of Shadows was freaking vegetarian? Lin Jin'er had just summoned her spirit weapon from her conscious and was about to pounce on one of Jojo's phantoms. She didn't expect a gust of wind to come from the side. Lin Jin'er would never have thought that while she was fully focused on dealing with that little bitch, someone else would actually attack her from behind. She was instantly sent flying by this gust of wind and crashed heavily onto the ground. It was only after Ming Ya's attack that he realized he had some conditions to launch, seeing that Imo Yin, Duan Yu, Eldest Qin, and Omega Kitoku were all looking at him. He expressionlessly withdrew his leg. And it was at this moment that the little stoic's sword came from the air. The thunder crash sword was mixed with a flash of lightning as it landed heavily on Lin Jin'er's left shoulder, completely tearing her flesh apart. Lin Jin'er let out a blood-curdling scream as she was once again sent flying by the ferocious sword light. Senior Lin. Mu Xiaoshui's figure swayed amidst the wind and fallen leaves, which made her two senior brothers' hearts ache. Zhao Yi and Qi Fa quickly ran to their junior sister Xiao Shui's side and comforted her in a low voice. It's all right, junior sister. Jin'er is a cultivator and her body is strong. She won't be defeated by this attack. That's right, junior sister. You, on the other hand, have to be careful. Activate the defensive barrier that Master gave you first, so that you won't be accidentally injured by swords and sabers when we fight later. Thank you, senior brothers, Mu Xiaoxue said with tears in her eyes. Go and see Jin'er. Be careful. Zhao Yi suddenly bellowed and pulled Mu Xiaoxue into his embrace. He abruptly raised his right hand and sent out a flash of spirit energy, slashing the sword light that suddenly arrived to the side. One of the Jojo phantoms had a cold expression on her face as she quickly slashed at them again. Zhao Yi was enraged. He mobilized all the spirit energy in his body and abruptly punched at Jojo's phantoms. You actually dare to hit my sister? Chapter 38:28. Mu Xingqian couldn't help but be enraged when he saw this.
He just so happened to be standing next to Zhao Yi and Mu Xiaoxue. When he saw that Zhao Yi actually dared to attack his sister so fiercely in order to protect Mu Xiaoxue, he immediately drew his sword and slashed at Zhao Yi's arm. Shilang, Fu Sha, Gue Qiu, and the others were also being attacked by Zhou's group. Just as they were about to retaliate, they were beaten up by the equally unreasonable Duan Yu and Mo Lian and the others. For a moment, the scene fell into a rather chaotic scene. If swearing was useful, they really wanted to hurl a string of curses Mu Xingqian and Mo Lian, Duan Yu, Ming Yasi, and the rest of the Imperial Academy students. Were they freaking sick? Or did they cultivate all day at the Imperial Academy until they became stupid? Didn't they see those dozen stoic faces rushing over murderously and attacking them indiscriminately? What was going on? However, that formation master, Old Heng, was especially alert. When he saw that the situation was off, he stealthily slipped out from behind a tree. His formation skills were very exquisite. After he left, he only set up a small smoke screen, which actually prevented everyone from noticing him. By the time another brawny man beside Gue Qiu discovered him, Old Heng had already fled without a trace. That brawny man gnashed his teeth in anger. Damn it! Old Heng, this damn old dog, actually took the chance to slip away. If this old geezer stayed here, he could definitely set up a temporary formation for them and help them escape. However, they didn't expect that this geezer would actually take the chance to run off by himself and leave them here. Gue Qiu's expression also appeared extremely unsightly. His pupils suddenly contracted, and he shouted, "Careful!" A sword intent fiercely attacked that brawny man's back, ruthlessly sending him flying out and crashing into a tree. The brawny man bellowed. When he flew out, he activated a defensive barrier for himself. Hence, this strike didn't injure his internal organs, but his old face was a bit embarrassed. The little girl's phantom expressionlessly chased after him with a sword in hand. Those who entered the formation would die. The thunderclap sword was instantly raised high. The third move of the Nine Heavens Thunder Sword technique, 10,000 swords returned to origin, was formed in a matter of minutes. A huge sword that covered the sky, and the earth whistled as it fell towards the head of the burly man. Everyone's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Shilang cursed angrily in his heart. This paralyzed face's phantom could actually execute such an astonishing sword move. This was too inconceivable. You're not the main body. You're just an illusion of a glyph array. Can't you be more normal? Something even more abnormal was happening next to him. When Mata saw that Zhou had used such a powerful sword move, he stopped fighting and clapped. Wow, Zhou is so powerful. Everyone was speechless. He knew that the people around Xiao were probably a little crazy. A loud rumbling sound came from the other side. The sturdy man was hit by the sword move, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Before he could turn around, he suddenly felt a chill on his neck. Ghost Qiu was horrified to discover that his companion's head had been sent flying by that little girl's sword. Logically speaking, this girl should be trying to break through to the immortal state, right? But she hadn't reached the immortal state yet. How could she kill his companion, a level 3 god tier master, so easily? At this point, Ghost Qiu finally realized how wrong his previous decision was. 2 of the 4 fugitives gave up their lives here. Chapter 38-29. To be able to advance so steadily in the Phoenixwood Forest, how could he not have some sort of skill? Hence, Gue Qiu had truly misjudged her. Gue Qiu regretted it now, but there was nothing he could do. He looked at the expressionless little girl who raised her sword and turned around while holding the brawny man's head. When her pitch-black pupils stared at him coldly, Gue Qiu shuddered and had the urge to flee immediately. This girl's expression was seriously too strange. She didn't look like a human at all, but like a creature that crawled up from the ground. One of the phantoms raised his hand and waved heavily, and a dozen phantoms pounced toward Gue Qiu and the others. Gue Qiu made a prompt decision and immediately swallowed a large number of pills. He suddenly stomped the ground and actually used the last bit of earth spirit energy to escape using the earth escape technique. He was really a bit scared. This girl's situation was completely different from a normal person's. Could a normal person who hadn't advanced to the god realm kill a god cultivator with one strike? He fled very quickly, and Sir Jojo's phantoms actually didn't chase after him. Her stiff little head turned around inch by inch, and her cold gaze landed on Omega Kitoku, Xiao Mushue, Chi Fa, and the others. Everyone retreated in unison and fled behind Duan Yu, Mo Lien, Mu Xingqian, Duan San, and the others with fear in their eyes. They exclaimed, "Hurry and think of a way to leave." Gue Qiu escaped using the earth escape technique, leaving them, the unlucky ones, here. They were surrounded by Sir Jojo's phantoms. So how could they escape successfully? Fu Sha, Wang Kuang, Xiao Mushue, and the others subconsciously hid behind the strongest person present. As a result, Mo Lien, Duan Yu, Mu Xingqian, Omega Kitoku, and the others were all surrounded by Sir Jojo's phantoms. At this moment, everyone was surrounded in a circle. Their expressions were tense as they gripped their weapons tightly. From the looks of it, they were about to attack at any moment. Mu Xingqian suddenly turned around and punched Xiaodo beside him. He said angrily, "Don't hit my sister." Everyone was instantly dumbfounded. All right? Is she really your sister? You need to get a grip on reality. Where did you get so many girls? Your Highness. Queen Fu Sha was protected by several subordinates. When she saw that little stoic approaching with a sword in hand, she involuntarily shuddered. Hurry and think of a way to make them leave. She really couldn't control her hand. What if the stoic face meowed and hit her? Wouldn't she be able to resist? This doesn't make sense, does it? Duan Yu cast a sidelong glance at Mo Lien beside him and shot her a look. Mo Lien was a little confused. These people always thought that he had a way to deal with a bunch of Jojo-sama. What was going on? Seeing so many wives jumping around in front of him, he felt very helpless. The figure raised her sword and slashed at them. Everyone cried out in surprise. Mu Xiaoxue clenched the offensive spiritual weapon in her hand and gritted her teeth. Just as she was about to release it, someone kicked her and she fell backward. Mu Xiaoxue fell to the ground at once, and aggrieved tears welled up in her eyes. Chi Fa and Zhao Yi quickly helped their little junior sister up and glared at Mata. Why did you hit her? Don't hit Jojo. What? You bunch of idiots. Chapter 38:30. Didn't you see that stoic face come up with his sword and slash you all together? Now, he's attacking indiscriminately. This bunch of idiots' behavior was truly an eyesore. Chi Fa supported little junior sister Mu Xiaoxue, who was on the verge of tears, and gently consoled her before turning to look at them in a huff. In reality, he didn't dare to truly quarrel with Mo Lien and the rest. What if he infuriated these maniacs with explosive combat strength? They might even point a finger at him and kill him on the spot. Hurry and think of a solution. Duan Yu blocked Sir Jojo's lunging sword with a hopeless expression. With his cultivation, it was naturally no problem to deal with the illusions in front of him, but he couldn't do anything. He could only dodge and dodge. Jojo's illusion followed up with a flying kick and a leap, pointing its sword at Duan Yu's chest. Duan Yu heaved a long sigh and raised his hand to pick up this little fellow that was lunging at him. This wasn't an illusion, but a solid entity. However, its tiny hands and feet were icy cold, and its eyes were shooting out a vicious glint. Although it was caught by Duan Yu, the thunderbolt sword in its hand was still aimed at his head. Everyone, with this guy's savagery, can't you guys be a bit more forceful and restrain these illusions first? Hey! Duan Yu angrily glared at the unmoving Mo Lien, his handsome face about to turn green. What is wrong with this guy? He dawdled for half a day and still hadn't made a move. He understood now. This guy just wanted to watch him get crippled by Jojo's illusions. What an unscrupulous jerk. How could Mo Lien know what Duan Yu was silently criticizing in his mind? He racked his brains for a countermeasure. The vines were probably useless against these Jojo illusions, but what about the soul fragment? Crown Prince,
Mu Xingqian couldn't resist calling out. If this guy still didn't make a move, Jojo's Thunderbolt Sword's illusion really would chop Duan Yu's head. At the critical moment, Mo Lien took out the soul fragment wrapped in the essence of the sacred wood from her inner world. Everything froze in an instant. The expressionless Si Chiao Chiao, who had been slashing and slashing at the crowd, suddenly stopped. Although their pitch-black eyes were unperturbed, at least their gazes were focused. The bunch of Jojo turned their heads mechanically and looked at the soul fragment in Mo Lien's hand. Qin Xen stared at Mo Lien's hand, and her gaze flickered before she slowly lowered her gaze. She didn't expect Mo Lien would also find a soul fragment of her. Would Xiao Mu tell Mo Lien about her soul self-detonation? That's impossible. Translator's words. S. Duan USTS. Mian Ways. MOS Miemia. She's, of course, MOS writes her, Jojo of hers as she was a person who was used to protecting herself. So how could she possibly tell anyone about the soul explosion? Of course. Tease it stopped. Mata breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Jojo's illusions were all staring blankly at the soul fragment in Mo Lien's hand. Where's Jojo? Mo Lien stroked the little figure in her hand. A certain someone who was pacing back and forth in the essence of the sacred would turn around and pointed behind a large shrub. Jojo was hiding there as expected. Mu Xingqian and the others all sighed in relief. Just as they were about to walk forward, they suddenly heard a loud boom. The entire Phoenix Wood forest trembled slightly from this huge tremor. The trees rustled and swayed, making creaking sounds. Chapter 38-31. Everyone was running towards the source of the sound when a burst of intense light suddenly exploded in front of their eyes. In an instant, everyone's 5 senses were blocked. Damn it! Gu Yishuan clenched his teeth and endured the pain from his ankle. His body swayed along with the tremors of the earth. Then, he couldn't control himself at all and was instantly flung away by the force of the tremors. He slammed into a mound of earth, and his head was smashed open. A miserable scream came from beside him. Gu Yishuan turned his head and saw that the beautiful and elegant little princess of the City of Shadows, Mu Xiaoxue, was also flung to his side. Because Mu Xiaoxue had no cultivation, she was like a duckweed swaying in the water. Along with the tremors of the earth, she was flung to the east and west, constantly colliding with the thorny bushes. There were a few faint bloody scratches on the back of her hands and calves. As such, it aroused a trace of manliness in Gu Yishuan's bones. Such a beautiful girl, but now she was suffering from such an unexpected disaster. How pitiful! Miss Mu, Gu Yishuan hurriedly reached out and grabbed her, barely managing to stabilize his body in the tremors. Mu Xiaoxue looked at him with tears in her eyes and said softly, "Young master, if you save me, I will definitely ask my father to thank you properly." Gu Yishuan's heart skipped a beat. If he could establish a relationship with the little princess of the City of Shadows, then he wouldn't have to worry about his future development. At the same time, Guei Qiu, who had previously escaped through the earth, had no choice but to burrow out of the ground like a groundhog after the tremors. Originally, he wanted to hide for a while longer. Who knew if he would encounter those little perverts again? Who knew? Plans couldn't keep up with changes. He was forced to burrow out of the ground, but the tremors in the earth made him swallow 3 mouthfuls of mud and dust. His entire face collapsed. After burrowing out of the ground, he happened to find Old Hang standing behind the bushes, controlling a flying sword and mumbling something. Guei Qiu was so angry that his eyes were red. He stepped forward and grabbed the old man's chest. "You old ghost, you slipped away so quickly. So you didn't run away, but came here to get something first? Don't be nervous, don't be nervous." Old Hang comforted him with a smile. "Didn't I see an opportunity and take advantage of a loophole? If it wasn't for that, I would still be imprisoned in that talisman formation. How could this situation have occurred? You came at the right time. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth is in a riot here,
which means that the person has successfully advanced into the divine realm and will soon attract the punishment of the five spirits' reincarnation. Ghost Chio was slightly shocked. This person actually entered the deity realm so quickly. However, Old Hang said with a smile, "Don't be nervous. All we need to do is stand here and watch, and take advantage of the opportunity to attack. We don't need to do anything else, and we'll be able to obtain all the benefits." Five-spirit reincarnation. How could a woman successfully pass through it? And in such a chaotic environment, what a joke. The heavenly Tao had always been stricter towards women. Over the years, there had been countless female cultivators who had lost their lives in the five spirits reincarnation. Why is it that other people have to die when crossing the five spirits reincarnation, but you, a young little stoic, can successfully cross it? That was impossible. In particular, the lightning fire that descended from the sky was simply too perfect and too huge. The strands of spiritual energy that seeped out of it made the people standing in the distance uncontrollably apprehensive. Emolian, Duan Yu, and the others, who were madly dashing over, happened to see the lightning fire bombard down with an abnormally mighty momentum. Their hearts couldn't help but skip a beat. Chapter 38-32. Normal people wouldn't be able to withstand such a fierce attack from lightning and fire, right? Old Hang's eyes narrowed, revealing a strange glint. Ghost Joe looked back, feeling a bit nervous. They've caught up. These students from the royal school were all perverts who did not even bother to reason with you. Boom! Everyone looked at the scene before them in bewilderment. Old Hang's initial calmness turned into terror. The instant he fell to the ground, one of his old legs couldn't help but tremble. Mu Xingqian couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Earlier, he was rather worried that if this lightning and fire came crashing down, Jojo would be smashed to the point of vomiting blood. Who knew that the lightning and fire that came crashing down from the sky would actually strike Ghost Chio, who had turned to look at them, and turn this unlucky fellow into ashes on the spot? It was truly vanishing into thin air. There was no chance of survival at all. Even the soul remembrance fragments had completely dissipated within the Phoenix Wood Forest. Emolian, Duan Yu, Mata, ACI, Omega Katoku, and Eldest Chin all expressionlessly glanced in that direction. It was very normal. Who told you to go near, Sir Jojo's cultivation area? They were very calm because they were familiar with Xiao Mu's routine, but that didn't mean that others could be as calm. Queen Fu Sha screamed from her throat. H. This, it struck the wrong person. Everyone's hearts were probably filled with an inexplicable and bizarre emotion right now. If saying fuck could solve the problem at hand, they could say 100 sentences in a row to vent that trace of anger in their hearts. After the lightning and fire dissipated, the last bit of smoke and dust also dispersed. Everyone only saw the little girl sitting in the tree hole. She slowly opened her eyes, and a pair of eyes as black as the starry night emotionlessly stared at them. "It's not the real body," someone shouted, and everyone felt a bit of a headache. How many freaking illusions did you create to wait for them here? Hand over your life. Suddenly, a pitch-black figure emerged from the grass nest and pounced into the cave. Then, it struck the phantom with its palm. Emolian, Duan Yu, and the others were caught off guard. When they caught up, they saw Jojo's afterimage instantly dissipating under the other party's attack. Jojo, even though he knew it was just an illusion, Prince Emo couldn't help but feel his heart clench. In the blink of an eye, the second lightning fire fell from the sky. With a boom, it smashed Old Hang, who was rolling and crawling away from the battle zone, into pieces. No one was lucky enough to survive the thunderfire. Old Hang was dumbfounded. Before he knew what had happened, he realized that his entire body had dissipated. He could only blame himself for being unlucky. Just as he was about to crawl away, he was used as a scapegoat by a black shadow who had launched a sneak attack on him. He was directly hit by the furious thunderfire and was killed in a matter of minutes. The heavenly Tao was instantly enraged. Countless bolts of lightning and fire smashed down with heavenly might. It wanted to exterminate that black shadow that had attacked Arbor just now. Everyone was dumbfounded. The heavenly lightning fire was not something that was easy to deal with. Was it coming for them? How freaking blind was the heavenly Tao to strike the thunder fire into such a ghastly state? So many bolts of lightning and fire came down, but it didn't strike the main character and only struck them, the idle people present. Hey, big brother, wake up. You struck the wrong person. On the other side, after Arbor successfully advanced, he waited and waited, but the five spirits' reincarnation tribulation didn't come. Chapter 38-33. On the other hand, Mo Lien, Duan Yu, and the others outside all felt miserable. Instead of their Charles, they were met with a bunch of inexplicable lightning and fire. These lightning and fire didn't have eyes and directly struck them. They treated them the same way they treated Gu Yishuan, Lin Jin'er, and the others at the same time. The shrubbery around them suddenly rustled. Suddenly, a bunch of strangers holding swords and sabers pounced out from all directions, shouting at them. When the leading elderly saw Mo Lien and the others surrounding them, it was obvious that they deliberately came to disturb the saintess's cultivation. His eyes instantly turned red from anger. You bunch of rascals! The Phoenix tribe's head, Consecrator, raised his hand and pointed at Mu Xingqian and the others as he cursed. Surround them all. You bunch of rascals dare to disturb our saintess's advancement. Kill without mercy. Hey, uncle, what's up with you? Why did you suddenly pop out of grass nest and want to make an example out of them without any explanation? Who is the saintess? Speak clearly, hey. Mo Lien and the others looked at each other, bewildered. Who exactly were these people who suddenly popped out? Why did they surround them for no reason? They wanted to kill and chop at the slightest provocation. Were they crazy? Sir, speak properly if you have something to say. Duan Yu glanced at the fuming Phoenix tribe's head consecrator and inexplicably felt that the bunch of people in front of them seemed to be, perhaps related to Jojo. He glanced at Mo Lien from the corner of his eyes. Prince Mo was baffled and directly replied, I don't know her. What saintess or not? How would he know? Moreover, at the mention of the saintess, Prince Mo would think of that loathsome saintess of the Sun-Moon Temple, Nie Yaoguang, just like Jojo. Nie Yaoguang was courting death and harming people on the Duchun River. Later on, she heard the news and escaped. They had never been able to catch her. Nobody knew if she had retreated back to the nest of the Tianyun family. Just thinking about it made them feel suffocated. Meanwhile, the Feng clan's head consecrator raised her hand and ordered Feng Chongqing to lead his men to surround Mo Lien, Duan Yu, Mu Xingqian, and the others. Over 2,000 deity realm experts came out in full force. Everyone had a dumbfounded look on their faces, all right? What kind of damn situation was this? They had come to the Phoenix Forest to gain experience. So how did they end up encountering a group of idiots who wanted to chop anyone they saw without any explanation? As the saying goes, enough ants can bite an elephant to death. With so many deity realm powerhouses, even Mo Lien and Duan Yu felt a bit of a headache, let alone the two high consecrators and that young man in the lead. It was obvious that their cultivation was at the transcendent God realm. It was a little tiring to resist it head-on. There was no need to create so many powerful enemies for no reason. Okay? Besides, Mo Lien and the others were completely at a loss right now. They didn't know why the other party had brought so many clansmen to surround and annihilate them. Mu Xingqian stepped forward and quickly said, Everyone, let's talk nicely. May I know who you are? You don't need to care who we are. That old consecrator fumed with rage as he scolded. You only need to know that you fellows must pay the price for offending our clan's saintess. Lin Jin'er's shoulder had yet to fully recover from the sword strike, so she staggered forward with a pale face. Sir, you have to be reasonable, right? Lin Jin'er endured the pain and said, We simply don't know who your saintess is. How can we possibly disturb her advancement? When she said the word advancement, she suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Chapter 38-34. Lin Jinner's eyes abruptly widened as she shrieked. You're talking about that little bitch? Smack! An empty slap landed on her ghastly pale face, causing her to fall backward as if her bones were falling apart. Dirty your hands. Duan Yu coldly swept a glance at Lin Jinner. The Feng clan's head consecrator's furious rebuke was suddenly heard. Seize her! Several Feng clansmen flew up and dragged Lin Jinner out of the crowd like dragging a dead dog. Feng Zhangfei looked at the head consecrator exasperatedly. Why was he as impulsive as a hot-blooded youth at his freaking age? Even if there was a quarrel between two young ladies, you should have let the young ladies resolve it. You, a head consecrator, attacked a woman just because she cursed the holy maiden. Seriously, you're too degrading. Bah, where did this holy maiden come from? He wouldn't admit it. Lin Jinner's complexion was ghastly pale by now. On the side, Mu Xiaoxue swayed like a willow leaf in the wind. She walked up a few steps and forcefully tugged at Lin Jinner's arm. She looked at the Feng clansman mournfully and sweetly begged for mercy. Don't capture Senior Sister Lin. Senior Sister Lin is just outspoken and doesn't have any ill intentions. The Feng clansman who captured Lin Jinner expressionlessly glanced at Mu Xiaoxue. One of them suddenly jerked his arm and flung Mu Xiaoxue, who had no cultivation at all, away. Seeing that the delicate Mu Xiaoxue was about to crash into the wooden pillar next to her, her two senior brothers, her flower protectors, quickly leaped out and supported Mu Xiaoxue like guardian deities, gently comforting the weeping little princess. Little junior sister, don't cry. Don't worry, little junior sister. Junior sister Lin will be fine. Hey, you guys are too much. In order to make his presence known in front of Mu Xiaoxue, Gu Yishuan also stepped forward with a sullen face. He stood in front of Mu Xiaoxue and her senior brother and coldly gazed at those Feng clansmen. Who exactly are you people? Queen Fu Sha couldn't resist interjecting. Gu Yishuan once again interrupted Queen Fu Sha's words and straightened his back. Capturing people without reason and without question? Don't you think it's too much? Feng Zhangfei blinked. What about it? Gu Yishuan was momentarily stumped by Feng Zhangfei's words. He wanted to be more unyielding, but his kung fu was not up to par. The strength of Feng Zhangfei's group was obviously much higher than his. At this time, it was actually the most appropriate thing to do. We are from the ancient Phoenix clan. As Feng Zhangqing spoke, the entire area fell silent. Everyone stared at Feng Zhangqing and the others as if they were looking at strange objects. Phoenix clan? The Wind clan that people had only heard of but never heard of? Mo Yin raised a brow and met Duan Yu's eyes. To be honest, the appearance of the Wind Race people here was both surprising and reasonable. The legends of the ancient Phoenix clan had always been passed down in Phoenix Grove, but no one had ever encountered them before. This woman is spouting nonsense, slandering our holy maiden. Kill her on the spot. The head consecrator pointed at Lin Jinner, who had been pushed to kneel on the ground. Lin Jinner's pupils immediately shrank. She didn't understand how her cursing of that stoic face had escalated to the level of losing her life. These Wind clansmen were so unreasonable. No, don't. No. Chapter 38-35. Sobbing, Mu Xiaoxue extended a frail hand toward Lin Jinner, and her senior sister Lin reverberated in everyone's hearts. Qi Fa, Zhao Yi, and Gu Yishuan couldn't bear to see her like this. Suddenly, they heard a faint sound coming from the tree hole, and a small white robe flashed before everyone's eyes. Subsequently, everyone saw a wisp of long black hair fluttering in the wind. That expressionless little person walked out of the tree, whole unruffled and unruffled. At this time, the sky had completely darkened, and the little girl's large almond-shaped eyes glinted with a cold light, appearing exceptionally bright in the night. What blinded everyone's eyes even more was that the little girl's eggshell defensive barrier was reinforced with who knew how many defensive talismans, and the defensive spirit artifacts all over her body were shining brightly. People couldn't help but want to laugh at her. So this was how ballers advanced to the divine realm, speaking of which, it really was very strange. Sir Jojo had already successfully advanced an hour ago. Afterward, she waited inside the tree hole for a long time, but not a single bolt of lightning came. She only heard the noise outside the tree hole getting louder and louder. At first, she couldn't be bothered to pay attention to it. But the more she listened, the more familiar voices sounded. Duan Yu's big brothers? Mataz Lien's. They were all here. But what was up with the 5 spirits' reincarnation tribulation? Why wasn't it coming? If it wasn't coming, did that mean it wouldn't come in the future, or would it still come in 2 days? This was completely unreliable, all right? Sir Jojo had activated all his defensive spirit artifacts, and even used so many defensive talismans, so he had all kinds of defenses on his body. Wasn't coming? Then what if it came when Sir Jojo was unguarded? Who could she reason with? When Duan Yu and the others saw the little fellow, they felt that this little cutie was very comical. Those who knew her well understood this expression all too well. Don't be fooled by her expressionless face all day long. It was also divided into different levels. First level expressionless face, second level expressionless face. Now that this fellow had a 9th level expressionless face, it meant that she was having a mental breakdown. If the little crown princess had a mental breakdown, would she say it? She wouldn't, all right. With her temperament of wanting to save face, humph, there was no way she would say it. Saintess. The 2 consecrators' eyes were brimming with tears. Thank goodness the Saintess is all right. Duan Yu expressionlessly glanced at Mo Lien and discovered that the latter was also expressionlessly looking at Charles. That's right. Who would have thought that after being separated for just a few days, their Charles would inexplicably hook up with a group of people from the Phoenix clan and foolishly be dragged away by others to become the Holy Maiden? He really couldn't miss a single glance. The 2 of them sighed inwardly. Arbor looked up at the sky. Thus, all the phoenixes raised their heads to look at the sky. What instructions did the Saintess have? The 2 consecrators excitedly expressed that the Saintess was not an ordinary person. She must have discovered something. The reason why the Foam clansmen had stayed in Phoenix Forest for so long was because they wanted to live in seclusion. Secondly, they simply couldn't leave Phoenix Forest. The Saintess had discovered the enchantment. The Saintess must be able to open this barrier. Come. Arbor raised a soft little finger and beckoned to the sky. What did the Saintess mean by come when she suddenly pointed at the sky? Mu Xingqian's mouth twitched, and he pulled Mo Lien back 2 steps. Duan Yu, Mata, and Omega Kitoku's group all retreated in unison as though they sensed something. Wait for me. I'm not done updating today. How was the Heavenly Tao blind? That was simply brain damaged, okay? The onlookers were on the verge of a mental breakdown. Chapter 38-37. Jojo, don't come. Mata couldn't resist shrieking as he somersaulted to dodge a wooden arrow falling from the sky. Wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, he hastily said, Jojo, hurry and let your relatives go back. Please don't make a fuss. He was about to die, not to mention Queen Fu Sha, Wang Kuang, and the others, whose spiritual energy had already been depleted. They were all bitterly holding on right now. Who knew if they would be killed by the 5 spirit essences left behind by Heavenly Tao in the next second? Arbor couldn't help but frown when she heard the clamor of the crowd. She raised her finger, and the dozen or so Jojo's phantoms sitting motionlessly around her immediately moved, pouncing to protect Mata, Mu Xingqian, and the others. It was truly infuriating. Heavenly Tao didn't even strike Sir Jojo's phantoms. It blindly struck several times in Wang Kuang, Lin Zhener, and the others' direction. Wang Kuang was about to cry. If he had known that there was such a trap in this world, he wouldn't have come here to court death with the intention of killing people and seizing their treasures. What should he do now? When Arbor saw countless bolts of lightning and fire flying toward Emolien, Duan Yu, and the others, she frowned and dashed to their side. The bolts of lightning and fire instantly turned and charged toward Wang Kuang's group as if venting their anger.
The thin youth named Bean was instantly shattered by the bolts of lightning and fire. He was utterly baffled and had no idea how he died. Hurry and get away from that witch. Get away from her. Lin Zhen'er screamed, as if she had discovered something. She ran desperately into the forest, stumbling and stumbling. Due to the five spirits' sudden attack earlier, the Feng clansmen were protecting Feng, Chongqing, and Duanyu, so how could they care about Lin Zhen'er's life or death? Instead, she took the opportunity to escape. Mo Lien twitched his mouth and took the opportunity to grab his wife. Jojo. Xiao Mu patted his chest and asked in bewilderment, "What should I do? Won't this five spirits reincarnation tribulation elder come down? Will it come find trouble with me the next day?" Duanyu, is this why you keep calling it come? Forget it. Ollie, who was standing at the side, snapped at her. Can't you see that the heavenly Tao doesn't want to strike you at all? Let's not beat around the bush. You're deliberately staying here to lure the heavenly Tao to strike us, right? Arbor cast a sideways glance at that guy and couldn't be bothered with him. With a nervous expression, he continued to ask Mo Lien, "So am I considered to have passed the five spirits reincarnation tribulation or not? Was there need to ask? If you transcend the tribulation, you're just chopping the melon-eating masses. Once you're done transcending, all right?" Mo Lien held back her laughter and nodded. "It should be done. Are you trying to laugh?" Jojo puffed up his cheeks in displeasure. His expression seemed to say, "Don't you dare laugh." "No, I don't feel like laughing at all." Mo Lien quickly shook her head. "What's so funny about that? Everyone also passes the five spirits reincarnation tribulation, so there's nothing strange about it, right, Jojo?" Duanyu rolled his eyes at his lack of integrity. Arbor nodded. "Since that's the case, then forget it." She looked up in distress, and Ollie quickly shouted at her, "Don't come." Everyone, "No, don't you guys feel that the sky is so dark and dense with nebulae, as if it's about to explode?" Chapter 38:38. Yao Hong pinched his fingers and gulped. He raised his hand and pointed at the sky with a terrified voice. Everyone felt a headache when they saw her pointing at the sky. Following Yao Hong's line of sight, everyone was shocked. Yao Hong was right this time. The sky was densely covered by thousands of nebulas, forming a flowing galaxy. It looked like it could explode at any moment. "What is this?" Wang Kuang was terrified. On the other hand, Mo Lien and the others were quite astounded. Why was the power of the star domain suddenly overflowing? The strongest power in the world, star power, was also called holy power by them. Could it be that the three states were suddenly filled with holy power for Jojo? Arbor looked at the origin power of heaven and earth roiling in the nebulas and expressionlessly turned to say to Mo Lien, Duanyu, and the others, "You guys stay here and absorb. I'll take the five spirits and leave this place. Let's meet at the southern entrance of Phoenix Grove later. If you see Duanmu and the others, help me tell them that our team has earned enough points. Tell them they don't have to work anymore." After saying this, Lady Jojo patted her husband to comfort him. Then, she quickly turned around and dashed toward the depths of the forest. Everyone, could this weirdo be any weirder? Sure enough, as soon as she moved, the five-colored origin power in the sky ran away with her. Seeing this, Wang Kuang, Zhao Yi, and the others wanted nothing more than a curse. She should have fucking scrammed a long time ago, all right? That five spirits reincarnation tribulation was probably sick in the head. It originally came for the stoic face, but it only hovered in the air and started to go blind when it slashed down. Let's go. This area was enveloped by star power. Everyone below the transcendent realm felt the terrifying suppression of the expansion of their bloodlines. It was as if they would be crushed to the point that their bones would crack if they stayed here for another minute. They couldn't stay here any longer. Wang Kuang and the others looked at each other and scrambled to their feet. Like stray dogs, they sprinted toward the entrance of Phoenix Grove in the opposite direction of Arbor. Now, no one dared to run in the same direction as Lady Jojo. After knowing her ability to summon lightning and fire at any time,
No one was willing to follow this girl. You can go wherever you want to go. Don't appear in front of us and continue to harm us. What a peerless weirdo. There was probably no one else like her in the entire 3 prefectures. Gu Yixuan hugged the fainted Mu Xiaoxue tightly and ran with the team towards the entrance of the forest. However, the more he ran, the more pain he felt from his ankle. It was as if every step he took was like stepping on a needle. It was so painful that he felt a little despair. He took a moment to look down. The originally pitch-black fingerprints had become even darker in color. The skin around the fingerprints even showed signs of ulceration. Why would it turn out like this? Gu Yixuan's heart slowly began to panic. His ankle had been grabbed by the skeletons in the formation. Could it be that he had been poisoned? He didn't dare to think about it any further. He hugged Mu Xiaoxue and kept a distance from the others. Now, because of his ankle injury, his running speed was getting slower and slower. Zhao Yi caught up with him and sneered. He raised his hand to hug Mu Xiaoxue. No need to trouble this young master. I'll carry Junior's sister. This brat harbored unfathomable intentions and even wanted to climb up the social ladder recklessly. Dream on. Chapter 38-39. His hands were empty as Mu Xiaoxue was snatched away from him. Anger flashed through Gu Yixuan's eyes. However, the sharp pain in his ankle made him powerless to fight with Zhao Yi for anything. The fact that Zhao Yi was able to carry Mu Xiaoxue away, to a certain extent, had lightened his burden. Let's go, let's go. Many mercenary teams scuttled out of the forest. Taking advantage of the first glimmer of dawn, they followed the large group and rushed out of Phoenix Wood Forest. Behind them, a large nebula covered the entire sky. The sky was supposed to be slightly bright, but at this moment, it was still dark because of the dense nebula. Only an occasional ray of light seeped out from the star power, appearing very weak and small. Mo Yin, Duan Yu, and the others quickly meditated and closed their eyes to enter a state of cultivation. Meanwhile, Mu Xingqian and the other members of the Phoenix clan retreated out of the dense star power range. They looked up at the sky and couldn't help but click their tongues in wonder. Jojo was truly a peerless oddball. Everywhere he went, all kinds of things started to become abnormal. So many strange things actually happened when he was just advancing a cultivation level. It had to be said that this fellow was a miracle in and of itself. Sir Jojo, who was being talked about by everyone, headed deeper into the forest. If someone was here right now, they would definitely discover that this oddball was indignantly glowing with a 5-colored cloud above his head. Thunder and fire crackled, but they didn't descend for a long time. Arbor ran to a secluded area before stopping to catch his breath. He looked up at the cloud that was emitting sparks in the sky and felt inexplicably angry. "Come down," the little fellow shouted angrily. "If you don't come down, then don't freaking ever come back. Why don't you hurry up and come down, all right? You look like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. It makes people feel very uncomfortable. Fuck, if you stick your head out, you'll be stabbed." She would rather be straightforward. When everyone broke through to the God realm, they all underwent this 5 spirits reincarnation tribulation. There was no reason that she couldn't, right? Moreover, it wasn't like she was lazy and didn't want to undergo it. She had already called out "come down" countless times, but this fellow just kept tossing and turning without any other reaction. What a crafty person! The origin of 5-colored spiritual power rolled and trembled in the air angrily for a while. Not long after, it left Arbor and left, twitching. Why'd he run away? Mr. Jojo instantly felt a little uncomfortable. She chased after the origins of the 5-color spiritual power, following it for 2 miles, shouting at it, "Come back! Come back! Come back!" Return the latter didn't even bother to pay attention to this guy. Leaving behind a few long afterimages of spiritual energy, he immediately left with his tail between his legs. If this source of spiritual power could transform into a human form, it would definitely have a pained expression on its face. Was this guy sick in the head? He had already stopped striking her, but she couldn't stop for a moment. She even chased him for 2 miles. She really was a peerless weirdo. Xiao Mumu's small face was expressionless as she stopped walking. She could tell that the heavenly Tao was sick. Wasn't he just here to tease her? After teasing her, she left. Not a single strand of the 5 spirit origins landed on her body. The 5 spirits' reincarnation tribulation was over just like that? If it was over, then it was over. Xiao Mu's small face was taut as she walked out of Phoenix Grove. She had arranged to meet Jojo's Lotus at the southern entrance of the forest. Now it was time to rush over and meet up with them. The sound of the wind. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.